Hello everyone, today we are starting the story of someone whose real name the writer conveniently forgot to mention. However, our protagonist finds himself in a game inhabiting the body of the unluckiest NPC ever, a character so lazy he makes a snail look like a marathon runner. This NPC has a knack for making grandiose claims while steadfastly avoiding any actual missions. This NPC harbors an ambitious dream, to marry the queen NPC of this world, a paragon of talent and beauty so extraordinary it defies description. However, there's a twist. This NPC is destined to meet his demise at the hands of this very beauty in 6 months. Despite knowing his grim fate, he's powerless to change it. After all, he's not just any NPC. He's a self-proclaimed asshole who transforms into a useless demon dog every night. He tries to escape the realm, every attempt ends in failure, as if the universe is conspiring against him. Finally, mustering up the courage to take on missions and cultivate to improve himself, he discovers an unpleasant truth. He's completely broke, just like all of you listening. His financial situation is so dire, even his magical bag has a help wanted sign. Please leave a like as today's like goal is 1,500 likes to hit the subscribe button for more videos. So let's start the story without any delay. The story kicks off with a beautiful lady being choked. She gasps, asking the one choking her why he always looks at her with such an expression. Suddenly, the attacker releases her, confusion washing over his face as he wonders what's happening and why he's choking someone. Seizing the opportunity, the lady strikes back, sending him flying. The attacker spits out black blood. Her blow clearly packs a punch, leaving him reeling. The attacker is a red-haired, handsome young man. He places his hand on his chest and starts coughing, clearly puzzled by the situation. He wonders if he's dreaming because this dream feels unusually real, like one of those late-night infomercials that just won't end. Suddenly, his head starts hurting. He clutches his temples, feeling an intense pain as a whirlwind of memories begins flooding into his mind. He can barely keep up with the rush of thoughts and images, making him question what is real and what is not. The lady, calling him junior brother, tells him that since the challenge has already been settled, there's no need to persist. With her face as red as a tomato, she asks him why he even pinned her down. The man replies that he doesn't know, looking more puzzled than a cat trying to understand a cucumber. She repeats his words, baffled, and just then, another girl with short pink hair who has been watching the scene from afar shouts out. She tells junior brother that he should give up as senior sister doesn't like him at all. And now that he's lost twice in a row, she wonders aloud if he's pretending to be dumb just because he feels embarrassed. It seems her junior brother has a knack for making awkward moments even more awkward. Embarrassed, the young man replies, wondering when he ever said he likes senior sister. The pink-haired girl points at him, stuttering in disbelief, calling him shameless. The lady interrupts, telling the pink-haired girl that there's nothing more to say and should go now. She then moves at incredible speed towards her junior sister, leaving the young man to ponder his life choices and perhaps rethink his approach to expressing or not expressing feelings. Holding his head with one hand, the man wonders what exactly is going on. Doesn't seem like a dream. He has all 5 senses and can feel the coldness of the sword against his neck. As he tries to make sense of it all, he starts coughing up blood, feeling dizzy and more disoriented than a cat in a dog show. Just then, he recalls a name, Ning Yiwan. Realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. He is transmigrated into the game's sword Immortal Legend. The lead disciple of Liu Shipeak in the game is called Ning Yiwan. He realizes that this would be terrible. According to the plot, this should be the scene where NPC Qingyang challenges Ning Yiwan and gets defeated. Because Qingyang kept pestering Ning Yiwan, it eventually forces Ning Yiwan to get together with senior brother Qin Shen. After Qingyang's demon clan identity is exposed, he is killed by Ning Yiwan in the Grand Sky Realm competition half a year later. He wonders why he had to transmigrate into the unlucky NPC's body. Logically, he thinks he should have become the male protagonist, Lai Xiaoyao. Instead, he's stuck in the role of a character destined for a dramatic and untimely end. Talk about drawing the short straw in the cosmic lottery. The worst part is he used to skip all the NPC dialogues when playing the game. He only vaguely remembers the general plot. However, thankfully, he almost finished the game and still remembers the major events. Thinking this way, he realizes he almost has a god's perspective on the unfolding story. It's like cramming for an exam and then finding out the test is about your life, awkward, but at least he knows the major plot twists. Just then, a girl approaches him and addresses him as junior brother he. She is Liu Xin, an outer disciple of Liu Shipeak. She adds that she has been looking for him everywhere. He recalls her name, Liu Xin, reflecting that he remembers this NPC. She's Qin Shen's lackey, pretending to be very loyal to Qingyang but secretly in love with Qin Shen. On the night Qingyang was completely rejected by Ning Yiwan and lost his memory, Liu Xin used the excuse of comforting him to drain him of his essence. She then transferred the essence to Qin Shen. making Qin and Shen's cultivation level jump by 2 stages. It's like living in a soap opera, complete with betrayal, unrequited love, and enough drama to fill a season finale. Liu Xin rushes towards him, suddenly leaping and calling for him to save her. Instead of catching her, he steps aside, and she ends up falling to the ground. Her face lands in the mud, and she cries out, asking why he didn't catch her. She laments that her butt hurts and demands to know how he will compensate her. In response, he tells her that men and women should not touch each other, and that he doesn't want to ruin her reputation. He suggests she get up by herself and apply some medicinal wine at home. It's as if he's giving her a lecture on proper etiquette while she's wallowing in the mud, making him sound like the world's most awkward gentleman. He then tells her he has something to do and needs to head back to the dormitory, making a hasty retreat. Liu Xin shouts, "Junior brother." As she struggles to get up, her calls echoing with a mix of frustration and embarrassment. Meanwhile, he reflects that he must hurry back to the dormitory to organize his thoughts, running off like he's just narrowly escaped a particularly awkward family dinner. Furious, Liu Xin fumes about how she will explain this mess to senior brother Qin. She realizes she can't go back like this and starts plotting her next move, determined to avoid a faceplant of her own making. On his way to the dormitory, he organizes his memories, recalling that he is an outer disciple of Liu Peak. He hasn't received the token to leave the Sky Realm, and without it, he cannot exit the Sky Realm barrier. He realizes he must complete tasks to earn these tokens, making him wonder if he'll need to become a taskmaster just to avoid a dramatic and untimely end. He arrives at his room and begins planning his escape from the Sky Realm, aiming to beat Ning Yiwan to the punch before the impending showdown in 6 months. It's like racing against a ticking clock with a side of existential dread for extra excitement. He reflects that Ning Yiwan is already at the 3rd stage of condensing Vian's realm, while he is still stuck in the key refining realm. Half a year later, Ning Yiwan will reach the peak of the Golden Core stage, while he will still be a lowly disciple. It's like being in a slow-motion race with a sprinting competitor, and he's left wondering if he should start training or simply hope for a miracle. But he's not the old Qingyang, he's the new Qingyang, and he's determined to live a long and fulfilling life. He resolves to get stronger, embracing the world of thrilling adventures he's now part of. He's ready to fully dive into the excitement, even if it means turning his life around from the inside out. Just then, Liu Xin bursts into his room, breathing heavily, and calls out to him as junior brother he. Qingyang curses under his breath, thinking of her as such a pest. Liu Xin continues, saying that senior sister will never like him and questions why it can't be her, since she's just as attractive, if not more so. Qingyang looks at her with annoyance, however, his gaze inadvertently drifts to her curvy figure, especially with her making such seductive poses. Liu Xin suggests with a hint of mischief that he let senior sister comfort his wounded heart. With a seductive tone, Liu Xin tells him that she has feelings for him. Qingyang wonders what's happening and why he suddenly feels an inexplicable urge to get closer to her. Liu Xin moves nearer, gently touching his chin and suggesting that even his body seems to be craving her. Qingyang reflects that this isn't really the case and tries to clear his mind. Before he can make sense of the situation, she pounces on him, calling him junior brother. Qingyang mumbles, struggling to articulate his thoughts. Liu Xin, seizing the moment, tells him to hold her tight. Almost as if on its own, his hand reaches out and grabs her. Liu Xin, feeling triumphant, reflects that she's got him. With a glint of mischief in her eyes, she promises to take him to paradise. Qingyang stretches his arm, and with just a mere push, Liu Xin goes flying and crashes into the door. He looks at his hand, utterly confused, as if trying to figure out how he just turned into an accidental force of nature. Liu Xin is on the floor, coughing and gasping. Qingyang, looking bewildered, struggles to understand why power seems to be constantly surging to his fingertips. He begins to reflect on whether this is part of the cultivation world's oddities. He realizes that the original host was a demon dog who had just transformed into human form as a first-stage demon race Starfire. This makes him equivalent to the Foundation establishment stage of human cultivators. Liu Xin, still on the floor, asks him if he's gone crazy. As she reflects on the situation, she remembers that Qingyang was previously considered a waste who hadn't advanced past the first stage in 2 years of cultivation. She wonders how he could have possibly hurt her given that she's already at the peak of Foundation establishment. He mentions that he had already stated outside that he didn't want to touch her to avoid ruining her reputation. Besides, this is his room and she barged in without an invitation. Talk about breaking and entering. She responds by saying that she has liked him for a long time and that he knows it. Furious, he accuses her of pretending to like him while using enchantment spells. She realizes she's been caught and wonders how he could see through her illusion, especially when he's supposed to be a key-refining stage waste. Qingyang, fed up with being toyed with, picks up her clothes. She shouts, asking what he's doing. In response, he gives her a swift kick, sending her out of his room. She lands outside on the ground, looking more surprised than hurt. He then calmly shuts the door as if he's just ended a particularly annoying episode of his least favorite show. Qingyang reflects on how she tried to drain his essence to benefit her lover, apparently mistaking him for the naive fool the original host was. He recalls that, in the game, he used to tell her he had nothing left, but she always insisted she wasn't satisfied and wanted more. Though he doesn't remember all the details of the original host's backstory, he knows that the essence blood of the demon dog clan was extremely valuable, giving them a cultivation speed that could leave others in the dust. He reflects that, originally, he was content to be seen as a waste and didn't bother with cultivation. Now he feels a sense of accomplishment for stopping any wrongdoing or criminal behavior early before it could grow into a bigger problem. He thinks to himself that he's really turning things around this time, like a reformed villain who's finally decided to play the hero. Later, he ventures outside, hiding behind one tree and then another as he tries to escape. He peers around cautiously and seeing that no one is in sight reflects that it's safe to make his move. Although there's a barrier set up in the game's settings, he wonders if the world has changed and if he can make his escape today. With a determined sprint, he runs for his life, only to slam face first into the hidden barrier. It's like trying to run through an invisible wall, leaving him dazed and questioning if he's just walked into a cosmic joke. He rubs his face, feeling the sting of the barrier, and reflects that the Sky Realm is definitely not a place one can just walk out of. Just then, a girl with light brown hair approaches from outside the barrier. Seeing him sprawled on the ground, she calls his name. Qingyang recalls her as Zheng Qingyang, an outer disciple of the Liushui sect and the chief editor of the Sky Realm Chronicles. She asks if he wants to leave the mountain. Qingyang quickly denies it, claiming he was merely taking a walk and got tired, so he decided to rest a bit. He then shifts the topic and asks if she has just returned from a mission, hoping to divert the conversation and avoid further awkwardness. Zheng Qingyang explains that she received a message from the Chronicles stating that junior brother Qingyang actually challenged the lead disciple of Liushui Peak, Ning Yiwan. She notes that this is big news and that she had to rush back for a meeting to write about it. She claims that the new issue of the Chronicles is going to sell out fast. Qingyang is amazed that such news has spread in just half a day. It's like his moment of fame has gone viral before he even had a chance to process it. Zheng Qingyang adds that she was on a solo mission to leave the mountain but heard about the big news on her way. Thinking she had plenty of time for her mission, she decided to return and write the article first. She didn't expect to run into him. She insists that he must give her the inside scoop. Qingyang replies that he hit his head earlier in the day and chuckles, claiming it's all a misunderstanding. Zheng Qingyang asks if he really doesn't like Sister Ning, and while chuckling, adds that everyone outside is saying he's jealous of senior brother Qin, which is why he's pestering Sister Ning. She reassures him not to overthink it, as she can see that Sister Ning's feelings for senior brother Qin are purely those of fellow disciples. It's like she's trying to clear up the gossip, giving Qingyang a reality check amidst all the drama. Qingyang questions how he could possibly like Sister Ning. He points out that despite being part of the same Sky Realm sect, there's still a mountain separating them from Yanyang Peak, and he has hardly ever seen Sister Ning. Zheng Qingyang ponders his reply, but then reminds him that during their last encounter, he challenged Sister Ning, claiming he would defeat her in the Sky Realm competition and make her his wife. She was there and heard it with her own ears. It's like she's holding up a magnifying glass to his previous bold declarations, making him reconsider just how much he's gotten himself into. Zheng Qingyang adds that Sister Ning is now in the Condensing Vein stage and will surely reach the Golden Core stage in just half a year. She's a true senior sister, and moreover, she's received a title from the sect master, so she should no longer be called senior sister but addressed as Lord Yuwa. It's as if the stakes just got higher and Qingyang's aspirations need a serious reality check. Qingyang replies that he was drunk that day and that's why he talked nonsense. It reflects that he's just a side NPC who dared to challenge the main storyline NPC and wanted to marry her, wondering just how much fake wine he must have consumed to come up with such a ridiculous plan. Grabbing his arm, Zheng Qingyang asks if he has any past history with Sister Ning. She offers to trade 3 low-grade spirit stones for some juicy gossip, making it clear she's willing to pay for the inside scoop. Qingyang tells her that he just remembered that he left some medicinal soup brewing in his dorm and is probably almost ready. Without wasting any time, he rushes off like a rat fleeing from a cat. Zheng Qingyang, not to be left behind, starts following him, shouting for him to wait. She reminds him that they're neighbors and suggests it would be better to go back together. Qingyang stops and chuckles, admitting that he must have really hit his head hard today. He agrees that they should go together, as if his earlier escape plan was just a minor blip in an otherwise perfectly normal day. Qingyang reflects on why he couldn't just press the spacebar to skip back then, wishing he could hit a fast-forward button on his current predicament. Zheng Qingyang, sensing his unease, tells him that she actually believes he has pure energy. She reassures him that as long as he trains diligently and avoids laziness, he'll have a chance to challenge Lord Yuhua in 3 years. She suggests he doesn't need to rush this year, like telling him to take a deep breath and enjoy the ride, even if it's a bumpy one. Qingyang reflects on the uncertainty of whether he will survive the next 6 months. Zheng Qingyang informs him that the Yuhu Dream Lotus in Lord Yuhua's possession was a special reward from the sect master. She adds that if he has a chance to obtain the rare Solar Dragon Flame Sword, it would greatly benefit his cultivation, though she admits she doesn't know where the sword is currently. Qingyang thanks her for the information and continues to insist that he has no feelings for Sister Ning, emphasizing that she is beyond the reach of outer disciples like him. Zheng Qingyang grabs him from behind, playfully chiding that it's not good to dismiss Lord Yuhua so casually, especially since she's the talk of the Sky Realm and has so many conflicts with him. She expresses her genuine hope that he and Lord Yuhua might make some progress like a matchmaking enthusiast trying to stir up drama. Qingyang tells her not to tease him, feeling like he's caught in a sitcom he didn't sign up for. Zheng Qingyang then mentions that he must have been trying to leave the mountain earlier, noting that he didn't look tired at all. She playfully suggests she's got it right. Qingyang, resigned to the fact that he can't hide anything from her, admits that she's correct, like a detective solving a case with a knowing grin. Zheng Qingyang says that she remembers he hasn't taken any missions yet and tells him that by completing 4 tasks, he can earn a pass to leave the mountain and enjoy some freedom. Qingyang responds that he plans to visit the resource pavilion tomorrow to pick up a mission. Zheng Qingyang's gaze turns suspicious as she stares at him. Qingyang wonders why she's eyeing him so intensely. Zheng Qingyang comments that he seems different from before, noting how he used to always come up with excuses when she urged him to take on tasks, but today he's unusually eager. Qingyang reflects on whether Zheng Qingyang has realized he isn't the original NPC. He worries about the potential consequences if he's exposed, picturing dramatic punishments like being struck by lightning or facing some other outlandish fate. Zheng Qingyang playfully wonders if it could be the power of love behind his sudden enthusiasm. Qingyang freezes, his mind racing through scenarios of romantic comedies gone awry, before chuckling and responding that he simply feels that after 2 years in the Sky Realm, he can no longer afford to waste time. It's as if he's suddenly decided that being the realm's most unmotivated disciple just isn't his style anymore. Soon, they reach the dormitory area. Zheng Qingyang comments that it's good to see junior brother thinking this way. She adds with a laugh that if he recalls any old grudges or feelings with Lord Yuhua, he should let her know first. She promises that with her spring and autumn writing skills, she'll turn it into a blockbuster issue of the Chronicles. Then, without waiting for his response, she rushes to her room and slams the door shut. Qingyang stands there, pondering the spring and autumn remark, wondering if it's some kind of coded message. It certainly doesn't sound like the next big hit, more like a cryptic hint he needs to decipher before it turns into another surprise plot twist. He tells himself to forget it, it's already dark, and he'll make plans tomorrow. Just as he's about to enter his room, he unexpectedly transforms into a demon dog. Realizing his predicament, he reflects that he forgot the original host was a demon dog, and that in the early stages of human transformation, he might revert to animal form at night. He wonders why this has to happen now. When he tries to speak, all that comes out is a bark. He starts whining, realizing he can't speak human words either. It's just his luck. If he had to face any more misfortune, he'd need a new definition for bad days. In the Sky Realm, a cultivator's disdain for demons runs deep. If they discover that he's a demon dog, his fate would be grim. He'd be skinned and served as dog meat. He picks up his robe with his mouth, dragging it along the ground. Tears flow from his eyes as he reflects on how he hasn't had a decent meal since transmigrating. His stomach grumbles, reminding him that hunger is the least of his worries. Suddenly, he hears a voice mentioning a spirit beast. His heart skips a beat as he recognizes the voice. It belongs to Ning Yiwan, the Lord Yuhua. Ning Yiwan approaches and examines him with a curious gaze. She asks if he's a spirit beast belonging to one of the junior disciples. He looks up at her, utterly confused. Ning Yiwan observes that without a binding charm, he's a masterless spirit beast. With a gentle chuckle, she sits down and begins to rub his head. Then she picks him up and cradles him in her lap. She tells him that this is the disciple's dormitory and that masterless spirit beasts shouldn't be wandering around here. Qingyang's internal monologue is less than serene. He reflects that he is fucked up. Still at the door of his room, Ning Yiwan takes in the mess inside and wonders which junior disciple could be so careless with their belongings. She notices the clothes strewn around and shakes her head in disapproval. Turning her attention back to the demon dog, she asks if he's hungry. She offers to take him to her place and give him something to eat, her voice filled with sympathy. Taking advantage of his current form, Qingyang, now in the demon dog guise, starts to nuzzle and sniff around her melons, drawn to the pleasant scent and warmth of her presence. In his mind, he muses that it all smells so enticing, and he's tempted to take a bite. After all, it must be as delicious as it looks. Just then, Qingyang recalls that Ning Yiwan possesses the Jade Spirit Constitution, which naturally attracts demons. He wonders if absorbing a bit of her essence could significantly boost his cultivation. However, he quickly dismisses the idea, shaking his head in disbelief in his own audacity. After all, he's a demon dog now, not a shady character looking for a quick power-up. Ning Yiwan notices his troubled expression and coos at him, referring to him as a little puppy. Qingyang looks up, puzzled by the term. He can't quite believe that this is the same person he's seen in the game, now showing such unexpected kindness. With a gentle smile, Ning Yiwan reassures him not to be afraid, claiming that her sister will protect him. She then places a tender kiss on his forehead, further mystifying Qingyang. He can't help but wonder if he's in the middle of a bizarre dream or if he's somehow become the star of a weird animal sitcom. Ning Yiwan carries the little demon dog into her room, where she sets him down gently on her bed. With a warm smile, she explains that her master instructed her to deliver something to her uncle on Liashi Peak, and she just happened to come across him, the little puppy. As she looks at him, she admits that he's quite pleasing to her eye. She then proceeds to pick up a handkerchief and begins to wipe his little paws, commenting on how dirty the little puppy is. Ning Yiwan muses aloud that she doesn't recall ever seeing a canine spirit beast in the sky realm before. As she meticulously cleans his paws, Qingyang can't help but feel like he's been cast in an unexpected role of pet of the day in Ning Yiwan's life. At least he's getting a spa treatment out of this unexpected twist. After wiping his paws, Ning Yiwan begins to gently comb his fur, treating him like a pampered pet. She asks if he's a baby who recently wandered into this place. Qingyang can only wonder what on earth is happening. Ning Yiwan is behaving so differently from her game character, and now she's calling him a baby. As she continues his grooming, Ning Yiwan reflects on the recent events. She mentions that junior brother Qingyang challenged her again that day and, as expected, lost. She finds him quite peculiar and notes that while everyone says he likes her, she doesn't quite believe it. Qingyang wonders why Ning Yiwan is suddenly talking about him like he's the hot topic of the day. She continues saying she doesn't actually dislike junior brother Qingyang, but then she picks him up in her hands and dismisses his concerns, saying he's just a baby puppy and won't understand. Qingyang can't help but feel a wave of embarrassment. Here he is completely exposed in front of Ning Yiwan, and she's treating him like an adorable, clueless puppy. Ning Yiwan mentions that she didn't expect him to be shy, finding him quite the innocent little baby. She adds that tonight he can sleep with her. Qingyang is left pondering the idea of spending the night with her. He reflects on Ning Yiwan's apparent affection for small animals, noting that she often catches spirit beasts to keep her company. He debates whether he should embrace this chance to sleep in luxury or if he should make a break for it. After all, it's one thing to be a pampered pet and another to be a prisoner of a cuddle session. Qingyang reflects on how any spirit beast would be reluctant to leave Ning Yiwan's side. After all, just inhaling the fragrance of her spirit jade body could extend their lifespan. Running away now might look too suspicious. As he contemplates his options, Ning Yiwan begins removing her outer layer of clothing. Even in his demon dog form, Qingyang feels a flush of embarrassment, barking in protest. Of course, with no human words at his disposal, it's not very effective. Fortunately, she's down to her innerwear, but Qingyang still finds the whole situation rather torturous. It's like being a witness to a scene in a drama he never signed up for, complete with an awkward subplot. Ning Yiwan takes him to her bed and hugs him tightly, declaring that it's time for sleep. Qingyang's eyes well up with tears as he contemplates his predicament. With Ning Yiwan's clothes removed, the fragrance of her spirit jade body is even more overwhelming, and he struggles to hold himself together. Trapped in his little dog form, he can neither speak nor act, feeling utterly powerless. He mentally curses himself, lamenting his inability to do anything about the situation. It's like being stuck in a never-ending loop of awkwardness, with no way out. As soon as Qingyang notices that Ning Yiwan is sound asleep, he decides it's time to make his escape. However, just as he starts to wriggle away, she murmurs for him to stay still. With a bit of maneuvering, he manages to slip off the bed. His legs feel like they've turned to jelly, adding an extra layer of clumsiness to his already precarious situation. Spotting the open window, he formulates a plan. Climbing out the window should be quieter than using the door after all. He gathers all the courage he can muster and leaps through the window, landing outside with a thud. As he scurries back to his room, he reflects on his narrow escape, thinking that perhaps Lord Yuwa isn't as scary as he initially thought. The next morning, Qingyang strolls into the resource pavilion, but his arrival quickly attracts attention. Whispers start circulating among the crowd, each comment adding to his growing list of concerns. One onlooker points out that he's the disciple from Liushu Peak, who had the audacity to challenge Lord Yuhua just yesterday. Another person chimes in with a smirk, suggesting that Qingyang's jealousy of senior brother Qin might be driving him to cause trouble, fearing that Lord Yuhua might run off with Qin. The murmurs continue, with one person lamenting that senior brother Qin, the chief disciple of Liushu Peak, is in a league of his own compared to Qingyang. A companion agrees, adding that Qingyang seems to have an unhealthy obsession with Lord Yuhua and has been at constant trouble. They even speculate that he might be a bit sick. Qingyang, irritated by the incessant whispers, silently pleads for them to hush as he can hear every word. He approaches the elder of the pavilion, trying to keep his cool, and states he's here to accept a low-level mission. The elder, peering over his desk, informs Qingyang that all the mission plaques for the month have already been assigned. Apparently, he's missed the boat. Unfazed, Qingyang insists he's in a bit of a rush. The elder contemplates this for a moment, then rummages through his drawer. He eventually produces a mission plaque and reveals that it's the last one available. The reward is a modest 2 points, and it's been so overlooked that even the other disciples have given it the cold shoulder. With a wry smile, the elder asks Qingyang if he's interested in taking it. He presents the mission plaque, mentioning that it involves the low-level Hoshui Tower mummy case, a task so unpopular that no disciple wants to touch it. The elder warns Qingyang that the mission's timing starts from when he leaves the mountain, and if he fails to complete it within a week, he won't be eligible for another mission for 2 months. Despite the less-than-ideal conditions, Qingyang decides to take the plunge. He nods and requests the elder to register him for the mission. Later, Qingyang examines his bag of spirit stones and finds a mere 12 low-grade stones. He reflects on the original owner's dismal financial situation and questions his choices, wondering why he came to the Sky Realm with such meager resources. He sits there, feeling deflated as he vaguely recalls that his host came from a prominent demon dog clan, a family reputed for their wealth. Qingyang is perplexed, wondering how someone from such a prestigious background ended up so poor. Just then, Zheng Qingyang startles Qingyang by calling his name from the window. He nearly jumps out of his skin, wondering how she manages to be so stealthy. She asks if it's true he has already taken a mission. He nods, admitting he took it not long ago and got a one-time permission slip from the elder to leave the mountain. Zheng Qingyang grins and says she heard Lord Yuhua also took a mission to leave the mountain, and their mission locations are practically neighbors. With a sly smile, she asks if Qingyang planned this on purpose. Qingyang explains that the mission he took was one that no one else wanted, and it's purely by chance that their mission locations are so close. He tries to shrug it off, as his bag of low-grade spirit stones isn't exactly helping his case. Zheng Qingyang's eyes widen in surprise when she sees the pitiful amount of spirit stones. She can't believe he's down to this little money. Qingyang, feeling a bit deflated, admits that this is all he has left. It's almost as if his financial situation is so grim, even his spirit stones are starting to look like they've been on a diet. Zheng Qingyang informs Qingyang that completing the low-level mission will earn him points, which can be exchanged for 10 medium-grade spirit stones. Qingyang's eyes light up with excitement. He's thrilled to learn that 10 medium-grade spirit stones are worth the equivalent of 300 tulls of silver. Zheng Qingyang adds that in other regions, those stones could be worth even more. Qingyang, feeling like he's just discovered a treasure chest, starts daydreaming about his newfound wealth. It's almost as if he's imagining himself swimming in spirit stones like Scrooge McDuck, except with a lot more glitter and a lot fewer ducks. Zheng Qingyang then says that since she's just shared this great news with him, he owes her a juicy update on his romantic adventures with Lord Yuhua when he returns. She adds with a grin that if he ever becomes dual cultivation partners with Lord Yuhua, he'll be famous in the Sky Realm. Before leaving, she casually mentions that Lord Yuhua is a top choice for dual cultivation, and then cheerfully bids him goodbye, leaving Qingyang to ponder his potential new celebrity status. Qingyang bids Zheng Qingyang goodbye, sighing as he contemplates the idea of dual cultivation with Ning Yiwan. He can't help but think that it might speed up his death rather than his success. The next morning, Qingyang heads deep into the forest towards his mission destination. As he makes his way, he reflects on his current situation. With a mid-Starfire stage, just 12 low-grade spirit stones, and a god's perspective, he realizes that's pretty much it. It's almost like he's got the starter pack of an adventure game, minus the epic loot and legendary companions. Qingyang feels a pang of disappointment, realizing that with so little in his possession, escaping the vast Sky Realm is nothing more than a distant dream. He grimly thinks he might starve within a week if he doesn't find a way to earn more and improve his cultivation. Otherwise, when it's time to make a move, he might be caught off guard and things could go terribly wrong. He reflects on how he was once just playing a game at home and suddenly he finds himself in this world inhabiting the body of an unlucky NPC with no special abilities. It's almost as if he's been dealt a rough hand in a game where he didn't even get to pick his character's stats. Qingyang wonders if he's here to be the universe's punchline, but on second thought, this start isn't too shabby for a transmigration. He tells himself to embrace his fate and just dive in headfirst. As he approaches a pond, Qingyang realizes he's been walking for 2 hours straight. He figures it's a good time to stop and refill his water supply. It's not quite a spa day, but a drink from the pond might just be the refreshment he needs to keep moving forward. There happens to be Liu Xin, washing herself behind a small rock. Just as he passes by the rock, he comments at the water being so clear. Hearing his words, Liu Xin gets startled. She splashes the water in surprise and asks who's there. Qingyang emerges and is taken aback to see Liu Xin. He reflects that if he had known she was here, he would have made a beeline down the mountain. He can't help but wonder if the pond water has essentially become bathwater now. It's a bit like finding out your refreshing drink was just used for a sponge bath, definitely not the kind of surprise he was hoping for. Liu Xin asks Qingyang if he came here specifically to find her. Qingyang, feeling a bit awkward, explains that he was just passing by and stopped for a drink. He adds that if he had known she was here, he would have taken a detour. Liu Xin steps out of the pond and tells him that with just the two of them here, he shouldn't be so shy. With a mischievous glint in her eye, she reflects that he must have been here for her, and it would be a real shame if he didn't end up giving his life essence to senior brother Qin. Qingyang says he needs to hurry down the mountain to complete his task and suggests she continue her bath. However, Liu Xin surprises him by rushing forward and hugging him from behind, pleading with him not to leave. She reminisces that he used to be much kinder and asks who has made him upset. If it's her, she insists he should tell her what she did wrong. Qingyang, feeling both flustered and bewildered, bluntly asks if she's a pervert. Liu Xin is taken aback by Qingyang's remark and responds with shock. She insists that she has genuine feelings for him and questions why he's insulting her like that. Qingyang advises her to focus her attention on senior brother Qin and says goodbye before leaving her behind. As Qingyang walks away, Liu Xin reflects on his recent behavior, wondering if he's started to realize something. She's puzzled by his deliberate avoidance, especially since he clearly used to enjoy her advances. It's almost as if he's got a sudden case of avoidance flu, a condition where he's become allergic to her romance drama. Meanwhile, a young man perched on a tree branch witnesses the entire scene. It turns out Ning Yiwan is also with him. The young man turns to Ning Yiwan and remarks on how strange Qingyang is. He notes that while Qingyang claims to admire Ning Yiwan, he's also heard about Qingyang's close relationship with Liu Xin. And now when Liu Xin shows her affection, Qingyang responds by calling her a pervert. The young man is thoroughly baffled and can't make heads or tails of the situation. Ning Yiwan addresses the young man as Lei and advises him not to comment on others' matters. Lei nods in agreement, acknowledging that he might have spoken too much. Shifting the topic, Lei informs Ning Yiwan that the demonic forces have been on the rise recently. Since her task involves dealing with these forces, he warns her to be extra cautious. Ning Yiwan responds with a hint of seriousness, noting that Lei's task is not exactly a walk in the park either. It's as if they're both bracing for a challenging day at work, but at least they've got each other to commiserate with. As they exit the barrier, Ning Yiwan tells Lei that they must part ways here. She needs to head north to Zhuo County. Lei wishes her a victorious return, adding a bit of encouragement as if he's cheering on a friend about to face an epic quest. Later, Qingyang approaches the barrier and touches the mission token to it, finding that it works just as expected. He reflects that it's a pity the token has a recall function. If he exceeds the mission time limit, he'll be forcibly sent back to the Sky Realm. Otherwise, he might have considered making a break for it this time. Soon he arrives at Zhuo County and notes with some relief that it was quite close. Just half a day's journey. It's almost as if he's discovered a shortcut in a game and is relieved he won't need to grind through too much travel time. Qingyang enters Zhuo County and is struck by its lively atmosphere. Located just 10 kilometers north of the Sky Realm, it's a prosperous small town nestled between mountains and rivers. He reflects that although the items sold here are familiar from his game days, seeing them in real life feels oddly surreal. In the game, these items were just static images, and most vendor NPCs couldn't engage in conversation. Now hearing the laughter and banter of the vendors adds a whole new layer of reality to the experience. Qingyang realizes that the original owner didn't even have a decent weapon. The thought of tackling the mission known as the Dry Corpse Case without any protection makes him uneasy. He decides to head into Zhuo's weapon shop, hoping to find something that won't make him feel like he's about to walk into a fight armed with nothing more than a toothpick. It's like walking into a candy store, but for someone who prefers swords over sweets. Let's just hope he finds something that doesn't come with a use at your own risk label. The shopkeeper, a lady with a welcoming smile, asks Qingyang what kind of weapon he's looking for. She explains that their shop offers everything from secret hidden weapons to great axes, an arsenal that seems to cover all the bases, from subtle to downright dramatic. Qingyang reflects that as a sword cultivator, he should probably choose a sword, even if he's not exactly a master of the blade yet. With curiosity, he examines the array of swords on display. After a moment of contemplation, he picks up an iron sword and asks the shopkeeper how much it costs. The lady tells Qingyang he has a good eye for choosing the sword. She explains that this iron sword can cut through iron like mud and is perfect for self-defense. It's priced at just 10 tolls of silver. Qingyang, feeling a bit sheepish, admits that he doesn't have any silver on him and asks if he can pay with lower-grade spirit stones instead. The lady points him towards a nearby pawn shop, where both spirit stones and silver can be used as currency. She adds that converting his lower-grade spirit stones would mean he needs just 3 to cover the cost. Qingyang hands over 3 lower-grade spirit stones, wincing a bit as he parts with the last of his funds. It's like giving away the last of his snacks when he's starving, painful, but necessary. The lady quickly grabs the spirit stones, thanking him for the purchase with a cheerful nod. Qingyang then inquires if she's familiar with Flower Waterhouse. He introduces himself as a disciple from Liushu Peak in the Sky Realm and seeks information about the place. It's like trying to get insider tips in a new town. He's hoping she's got the local scoop. The lady is taken aback by Qingyang's revelation and comments with a hint of surprise that he's an immortal cultivator. She then shares what she knows about Flower Waterhouse. It turns out that Flower Waterhouse is the largest brothel in the area, and recently there have been disturbing reports of men being carried out completely drained and dying in horrifying circumstances. She explains that the authorities have questioned the girls working there and even had the Dragon Flying Division investigate. Despite their efforts, they found that all the girls were human, leaving the authorities and Qingyang facing a puzzling mystery. Qingyang is puzzled by how humans could drain men dry, sensing that something suspicious must be going on at Flower Waterhouse. He thanks the lady for the information and decides to head to Flower Waterhouse right away. As he leaves, she calls out, expressing her belief that, as a cultivator from the Sky Realm, he's likely to uncover something important. With a hopeful tone, she urges him to rid the area of this evil. It's as if she's passing the baton of justice, hoping Qingyang will solve the mystery and restore some peace. Later, when Qingyang arrives at Flower Waterhouse, he finds the place unusually empty. Only 3 or 4 men are present watching the dance performance of the women from the brothel. Qingyang observes that the recent dry corpse case has clearly taken a toll on business. On a normal day, this place would be bustling with activity. Just then, he notices a lady coming down the stairs. She comments aloud that at this rate, she'll have to close down in less than 3 months. She curses the demon, grumbling about how there are plenty of men out there, yet it has to target her Flower Waterhouse. Just as she vents her frustration, she spots Qingyang and mistakes him for a potential customer. Immediately, she approaches him with a practiced smile, asking what he would like. Whether it's a drink, a meal, a particular girl, a massage, a tune, or maybe some games, she offers it all with enthusiasm. Her pitch is almost too smooth, as if she's determined to make him feel like he's stepped into the ultimate entertainment hub. Qingyang observes that this madam must be really desperate for business lately. He dramatically declares that he's a disciple of Liushu Peak from the Sky Realm, here to exterminate evil and uphold justice. As he makes this declaration, he can't help but feel a bit heroic, almost as if he's donned a cape and become the star of a grand adventure. It's like he's gone from zero to hero in a single sentence, all while the madam looks at him like he just asked for the deluxe package with extra glitter. The madam begins to cry, lamenting her miserable life and how much she has suffered. She then steps closer and hugs Qingyang, exclaiming that she has been praying day and night for a hero, and now he has finally arrived. Qingyang, a bit taken aback by the sudden embrace, reassures her not to worry. He asks her to first provide details about the case. It's like she's turned into a damsel in distress, and he's the knight in shining armor. Only his armor is still in the shop. The madam explains that 2 months ago, a male guest was found dead in one of the girls' beds, which terrified the staff. Initially, they thought he had indulged excessively, but since then, every 3 days, another male guest has died. All the victims had their kidneys gouged out, which is both horrifying and baffling. Qingyang is shocked by this revelation. He reflects with a mix of disbelief and frustration, wondering if this is some sort of twisted kidney harvesting operation. The madam adds that she originally reported the deaths to the officials, but since Flower Water House operates in a gray area between the authorities and the dragon flying division, things didn't go as planned. After several days of surveillance, the officials felt the deaths were somehow tied to the brothel itself, so they decided it wasn't worth their trouble and left her to deal with it privately. Consequently, she lost a bit of silver. With no other options, she had no choice but to send out a desperate message asking for help from the immortal masters of the Sky Realm. It's like finding herself stuck between a rock and a hard place, where even the officials decided to swipe left on her problem. The madam continues to cry, lamenting her miserable life. Qingyang reflects on the situation, thinking that in this era where organ transplants are non-existent, the thief who's been taking kidneys is likely a cultivator or a demonic creature. He ponders why kidneys specifically. Usually, such sinister activities involve hearts. He speculates that perhaps the demonic creature or thief is in dire need of kidneys, like someone who suddenly found themselves on a kidney shortage. Or maybe, just maybe, they're simply lacking in that department and have taken a rather unusual route to solve their problem. Qingyang considers the possibility that if it's just a demonic creature taking kidneys, it probably isn't too powerful. As long as it's not beyond the Foundation establishment stage, he should be able to handle it. After all, this is just a low-level task. He then asks the madam when the last incident occurred. She informs him that it was the day before yesterday, which means they can expect another death at Flower Water House tomorrow. Repeating her life is so miserable, she squeezes her melons with Qingyang's arm, almost as if she's trying to extract his sympathy as well as his assistance. She pleads with him to help her and save the Flower Water House, promising she'll do everything in her power in return. Just then, a bold girl with silver hair descends the stairs, calling out to the madam. She demands to know why she hasn't brought the birds' nests from Wan, the shopkeeper, despite having requested them days ago. The madam, addressing her as Leander, explains that business has been so bad lately she's only had 3 or 4 customers, and there's barely enough to cover the cost of the birds' nests. It's like trying to keep up with a luxury order while juggling an empty wallet. Definitely not the best timing for gourmet deliveries. The madam tells Leander to hold on a little longer, assuring her that once the Immortal Master resolves the case, she will find someone to buy the birds' nests. Leander, noticing Qingyang and realizing he must be the Immortal Master, decides to wait a few more days before leaving. The madam then explains to Qingyang that Leander is one of the top girls at Flower Water House, usually pampered and spoiled. With the monthly income taking a nosedive lately, it's no wonder she's in a bad mood. She advises Qingyang not to take it personally. Qingyang says there's no problem and asks if she could prepare a regular guest room for him. He mentions that he needs some time to think about his next steps and plans to observe the layout of Flower Water House closely tonight to ensure everything goes smoothly. The madam agrees and tells him to follow her. She leads him to a guest room as if playing tour guide for the night, minus the brochures, and with a touch of urgency. The madam emphasizes that almost all the rooms of her girls have seen deaths lately, making it understandable why Leander is in such a bad mood. She adds that only Leander's room has remained incident-free. When Qingyang asks which room belongs to Leander, the madam points it out. Qingyang decides he'll stay in the guest room tonight and switch to Leander's room the next day. It's as if he's reserving a spot in the safe zone for his undercover operation, hoping to dodge any unwanted surprises before making the big switch. The madam approaches the door of Leander's room and knocks, asking if she's inside. When Leander opens the door, she's clearly frustrated, saying she was just about to go to bed and asking what the matter is now. The madam explains that tomorrow morning, the Immortal Master will switch rooms with her and that Leander will need to temporarily move out after she wakes up. It's as if she's delivering a last-minute room change notice right before Leander's bedtime drama. Leander responds with irritation, questioning capturing the culprit is one thing, but why a man should take a lady's room and calling the whole idea nonsense. Qingyang steps in, explaining that he's concerned the culprit might harm her and otherwise wouldn't have asked to switch rooms. Leander then moves closer, touches his chin, and remarks that he's quite pleasing to the eye. Given his good looks, she decides she'll let him stay for a while. It's as if she's weighing the pros and cons of room arrangements based on charm rather than practicality. The madam interrupts, gently swatting Leander's hand away and reminding her that the Immortal Master is not like the other men she's used to. She tells Leander to show some respect. Leander responds with a casual "got it." As they walk away, the madam apologizes to Qingyang, explaining that the girls from places like this can be a bit tactless and asking him not to take it to heart. Qingyang reassures her that it's no problem, as if he's used to dealing with both the charming and the cheeky in his line of work. Soon, they arrive at the guest room. The madam shows Qingyang the space, noting that it's the best spot with a full view of the first floor. She then grabs his hand, emphasizing that the future of the establishment is in his hands and that another murder would drive away even the remaining customers. Qingyang promises to do his best and assures her that he will handle it. With a firm but polite push, he nudges her out of the room, saying he needs to prepare now, like he's politely shooing away a persistent salesperson. He's ready to tackle this with the seriousness of a hero who's just been handed a VIP pass to save the day. After the madam leaves, Qingyang sighs, reflecting on how, in the game, the brothel had a side quest with lackluster rewards that he had skipped. If only he could return to his original world, he'd never skip a quest again. It's a classic case of hindsight being 20/20ths, or in his case, 20/20ths in-game vision. He then takes out his sword, admiring its sharpness. Tonight, he plans to practice some temporary cultivation and thoroughly review the original owner's techniques. It's his way of saying, if life gives you a side quest, make sure you're ready to tackle it, preferably with a well-sharpened sword. He hopes the culprit won't be too tough to handle. Opening a book, he starts swinging his sword around as if practicing to become the next hero in a high-stakes game of sword fight. Reflecting on the task's low point value, he wonders if this means it's not very dangerous. He quickly reminds himself not to be careless. According to the book, once one reaches the foundation establishment stage, it's recommended to gather spiritual energy at the forehead to perceive the spirit of all things. It's like upgrading from a basic vision mode to an enhanced reality view. As cultivation progresses, perception strengthens, allowing one to eventually control everything. He reflects that although he's currently at the Starfire stage, comparable to the Foundation establishment stage in humans, he should be able to cultivate this technique. It seems simple enough. As he gathers the spiritual energy, he's surprised to actually sense it. Cultivation turns out to be quite fascinating, and he wonders why the original owner neglected his training. With a bit more effort, he might have already reached the third realm by now. Shaking his head, he curses the original owner for wasting the Demon Dog clan's talent. It's like having a winning lottery ticket and never cashing it in. As Qingyang reads through the book, he diligently practices different skills, memorizing the first 3 chapters of the technique. Finding it quite engaging, he resolves to visit the library at Liushi Peak once he returns, eager to study more techniques. However, just as he's feeling pleased with his progress, he unexpectedly transforms back into the Demon Dog. Crying out in frustration, he quickly decides it's best not to dwell on it. After all, he's been traveling all day and could use a good night's rest. With that, he settles into the bed and, like a tired puppy curling up for the night, falls asleep in no time. Meanwhile, Ning Yiwan darts through the deep forest, moving with the agility of a ninja. Her pursuers, a group of demons, are hot on her trail. As she leaps from tree to tree, she mutters to herself that no matter what she does, it seems like a dead end. The demon leader behind her, a sinister grin on his face, taunts her. He reveals that her title of Lord Yuhua is just an empty name, a mere illusion. With a mocking laugh, the demons prepare to attack, closing in on Ning Yiwan. The demon leader's laughter echoes through the forest as he taunts Ning Yiwan, declaring that tonight her spirit jade body will belong to them. Just as the demons ready themselves to strike, Ning Yiwan draws her moonwater silk sword. With a swift motion, she unleashes a torrent of water, creating a fierce whirlwind. The demons are caught in the swirling waters, unable to escape its relentless force. Within seconds, they are all incapacitated, sprawled on the ground, gasping for breath as their lungs struggle against the water's assault. The leader, once confident, now lies defeated and helpless. The demon leader, now desperate, begs Ning Yiwan for mercy, pleading with a trembling voice. But before he can finish his sentence, Ning Yiwan swings her moonwater silk sword with precision. In a single decisive strike, she beheads all 5 demons. She coolly remarks, "Demons, you were already dead," leaving no room for debate, though it's hard to argue with a sword that sharp. Ning Yiwan, having finished her demon-slaying spree, steps onto her moonwater silk sword like it's her personal flying carpet. She soars gracefully above Zueo County, casting an occasional glance downward to admire the peaceful scenery she has restored. The forest and the county below must be wondering if their luck has just taken a turn for the better. Meanwhile, back at the Flower Water House, Qingyang arrives at Liander's door with a purpose. Liander emerges, curiosity piqued, and asks how he plans to catch the elusive culprit. Qingyang, ever the secretive hero, simply replies that it's a surprise for later. With a dramatic flair, Liander mentions the culprit's penchant for stealing kidneys and wonders aloud if he's not a bit worried. Liander then shifts gears, thanking him for his help. Qingyang, now used to this sort of emotional roller coaster, just smiles and nods. After all, in a place where even the brothel staff can be a bit melodramatic, it's all part of the job. Qingyang steps into Liander's room and notices the simple, unremarkable decorations. Just as he's about to ponder more, he hears a commotion outside. A voice states that they don't serve female customers here. Curious, Qingyang peeks outside and is startled to see Ning Yiwan at the entrance of the Flower Water House. He wonders what she's doing here. After all, she should be on her own mission. Outside, Ning Yiwan tells the madam that there are hardly any male guests left. Holding up a silver stone like it's the most exciting thing since sliced bread, she asks if she really plans to turn away someone who brings in money. The madam's eyes light up like she's just seen a unicorn. She quickly agrees with Ning Yiwan and asks whether she is stopping by for a meal or staying overnight. Ning Yiwan informs her that she plans to stay for one night. She takes a moment to reflect, noting that this flower house has a faint hint of demonic aura. Fortunately, there's no smell of blood, which suggests it's probably a small demon that's still on its best behavior. Qingyang, overhearing the conversation from inside Leander's room, is thoroughly puzzled as a fish out of water. Outside, Ning Yiwan questions the madam about who's staying in the room she's pointing to, which happens to be Leander's. The madam, with a shrug, replies that it's just one of the girls from the flower house. The madam recalls that the Immortal Master had advised keeping details about his mission under wraps to avoid leaks. Ning Yiwan warns the madam to be extra cautious as demonic and evil forces have been as active as a toddler on a sugar high. She advises the madam to be wary of letting any shady characters into her home because when it comes to trouble, it's better to be safe than sorry. Inside, Qingyang reflects on Ning Yuan's spirit jade physique designed to detect demons and evil spirits. In the sky realm, surrounded by spirit beasts, it was like trying to spot a needle in a haystack, except the haystack was made of needles. Spirit beast auras were minor compared to the intense aura of demons, so weaker ones often went unnoticed by cultivators. But now that he's ventured into the outside world, the contrast between human and demon auras is so stark it's like comparing a candle flame to a bonfire, easy to spot from a mile away. Qingyang realizes he must find a way to conceal his demon dog aura or Ning Yiwan will inevitably sniff him out when he returns to the sky realm. He remembers from the game that Ning Yiwan was as relentless as a cat chasing a laser pointer. No demon or evil spirit escaped her. Later that night, lying in bed in Leander's room, Qingyang reflects that the timing should be just about right. He anticipates the appearance of the killer demon, thinking that if he's lucky, it might show up with a dramatic entrance worthy of a fireworks display. Just then, Qingyang hears cries for help and springs into action, ready to confront the demon. As he steps outside, he finds Leander being held hostage by a ninja-like figure. Leander struggles fiercely, shouting for him to let her go. Her captor, clearly amused, remarks that he didn't expect her to be staying in this room. Nearby, a dead body lies sprawled out, drained of blood, adding a touch of grim realism to the scene. Qingyang thinks to himself that if he wanted a dramatic entrance, this certainly fits the bill, except it's less of a show and more of a horror movie. Qingyang shouts at the ninja to let go of Leander. He swings his sword with impressive force, slashing the ninja's back and compelling him to release her. The ninja retaliates with a fierce attack, but Qingyang dodges just in time, feeling like he's in a high-stakes game of dodgeball. Qingyang reflects that fortunately the original owner had demon dog blood, making him no slouch in a fight. He brushed up on some self-defense skills the previous night and his quick study paid off. Turns out he's not just good at hiding, he's also got a few tricks up his sleeve. Otherwise, that move would have been tough to dodge. The ninja curses under his breath, realizing he's up against a cultivator, and decides to make a hasty retreat. Qingyang tells Leander to yell for help while he pursues the culprit. Leander starts shouting for help, and soon Ning Yiwan arrives on the scene, rushing towards her and asking what happened. Leander explains that the Immortal Master has gone after the culprit. At the mention of the Immortal Master, Ning Yiwan reflects that it seems someone else has already taken on this low-level task. Meanwhile, Qingyang continues following the ninja man, shouting for him to stop, insisting he can't escape. But the ninja man moves like a gust of wind, disappearing into the streets in the blink of an eye. Finding himself at a dead end, Qingyang realizes this guy runs faster than a cat on a hot tin roof and has vanished instantly. He reflects on their brief fight and escape, concluding that the ninja's cultivation level is likely near the peak of the foundation establishment stage or even at the early stage of the vein condensation stage. Qingyang muses that this development is not a good news for him. Qingyang grumbles to himself that if he lets this scum escape now, he might have to wait another 3 days, and who knows if the ninja will ever show up at the Flower Water House again. With today included, the mission has already burned through 2 days, leaving only 5 days left. If he doesn't complete it, he'll be forcibly sent back to the Sky Realm. And if that happens, he'll likely have to follow the fate arranged for a game NPC and meet his end under Ning Yuan's sword. It's like missing the last bus and realizing the next one is in another galaxy. Just then, a lady taps his shoulder and asks why he's not going in. Qingyang jumps at the sudden touch, his heart doing a little dance of surprise. The lady, addressing him as young Master Qingyang, asks what's the matter and what he's up to. Qingyang, narrowing his eyes, asks if she's a fox demon and why she isn't afraid of him. Puzzled, she responds, asking why on earth she should be afraid of him. After all, he doesn't exactly look like he bites often. Qingyang quickly replies that it's nothing, then points out that she addressed him as young master Qingyang and asks if she knows him. The fox demon lady laughs in response, teasing that it seems the young master is playing games with her again. She reminds him that they are still in the human realm and suggests they head into the demon market first. Qingyang follows her, and after crossing a hidden barrier, they step into the demon market. As he takes in his surroundings, Qingyang is surprised to see demons everywhere. He asks her again if she really knows him. The lady, rolling her eyes, tells him to stop joking, insisting that everyone here knows who he is. Just then, another girl approaches, waving and saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other. Qingyang can't help but wonder if he's stumbled into a demon reunion party he forgot to RSVP to. The fox demon lady tells Qingyang that 2 years ago, his aunt asked her to forge a set of demon locking chains for him. The payment was made, but he disappeared. She didn't expect to run into him today at the entrance to the demon market. Qingyang, unable to comprehend all this, stands lost in thought. Suddenly, her 3 little girls surround him, addressing him as Master Qingyang and asking where he has been these past 2 years. They tell him they kept the items he requested safe and sound. Qingyang feels like he's walked into the middle of a drama series, except he doesn't remember auditioning for the lead role. One of the little girls cheekily asks why he doesn't take all 4 of them home with him. Qingyang, still bewildered, wonders what is going on. He's amazed that this NPC actually has such a backstory. It's like finding out your mailman used to be a secret agent. Inside her shop, the fox demon lady shows him a box containing the demon locking chains his aunt ordered for him. She explains that these chains can suppress demon aura and only a cultivator at the grand perfection stage might be able to sense it. She then orders her 3 sisters to get back to the counter and work properly, scolding them for their behavior. Qingyang reflects that this is exactly what he needs right now, like a wish granted by a genie. He asks her if he really paid for this and if he can take it. Just as he is about to grab the box, the fox demon lady lightly touches the back of his hand, telling him that he doesn't need to pay for anything from their shop. She explains that his family is a great benefactor to the Ding family. Qingyang can't help but think it's like finding out he has a lifetime VIP card to a magical supermarket. Qingyang reflects on what they said about him disappearing 2 years ago, likely due to being unable to leave the Sky Realm after entering it. For now, he decides to go along with what the Fox Demon sisters are saying. If the fact that he took over this body is exposed, who knows what kind of trouble it might bring. He tells her that he actually wants to buy some pills but only has a few low-grade spirit stones left. It feels a bit like trying to shop at a luxury store with just loose change in his pocket. The demon fox lady replies that spirit stones aren't worth much in the demon market. However, since he often mingles among humans, he must have some human items with him, and those are very valuable here. Qingyang rummages through his belongings and says that speaking of human items, he only has this pouch. The demon fox lady nods and tells him that the pill shop is outside by a roadside stall, run by a chubby little medicine spirit. Qingyang imagines a jolly little spirit hawking pills like a street vendor selling hot dogs. Qingyang tells her that he will go buy some pills first and then see her later. Stepping outside, he starts looking for the pill shop. Spotting a stall nearby, he guesses that must be the one. He approaches it and calls out, asking if anyone is there. A little spirit pot at the counter speaks up, saying that it is there. Qingyang, startled to see a talking spirit pot, asks if it is the boss. He can't help but think this place keeps getting weirder, like a fantasy novel he didn't sign up to read. The pot confirms, saying it is correct, and asks what Qingyang would like to buy. Qingyang shows his pouch and says he would like to exchange it for some pills, specifically something that can treat and heal. He asks if the pot has any. The pot then starts mixing and grinding some ingredients, eventually handing Qingyang a green pill. The pot mentions that the pouch can be exchanged for a 9-cycle rejuvenation pill. This pill can revive the dead, but since he only has 1 pouch, he can only exchange it for 1 pill. Qingyang takes the pill, thinking that in this world, even pots have a flair for the dramatic. Qingyang tells the spirit pot that this time he will buy 1 pill, but next time he will take care of his business more seriously. Excited, Qingyang reflects on the deal he just made. Exchanging a broken pouch for a pill that can revive the dead feels like hitting the jackpot. He plans to bring everything he has that's out of use next time and see what other treasures he can snag. It's like discovering a magical flea market where your old junk turns into priceless artifacts. Later, as Qingyang returns to the flower water house, he reflects that despite losing some belongings, he gained 2 treasures, so it's not a total loss. He decides to stash his new items and see what the old lady at the brothel is up to. He muses that another one died today and doubts the business at Flower Water House can continue much longer. Just then, someone places a sword on his neck and demands to know where the person he was chasing went. Qingyang turns his head and starts sweating as he identifies Ning Yiwan, her sword pressed against his neck. He nervously asks her how she got there. Ning Yiwan, with a smirk, tells him that his demonic aura is very strong, like a beacon that led her straight to him. Qingyang can't help but think that attracting attention is great, unless it's from someone with a sword at your throat. Qingyang mentions that the demonic aura lingering around must be from his recent clash with the criminal, adding that demon battles really tend to leave a mess. He expresses regret for any discomfort caused to her. Qingyang then muses to himself that it's a good thing he wore the demon suppression chain on his way back, ensuring his aura went unnoticed. Ning Yiwan, with a raised eyebrow, questions him, seeking confirmation and certainty. Qingyang confirms it with a nod, like he's acknowledging a simple truth. Ning Yiwan ponders the situation, noting that the aura clearly belongs to someone at the early stage of vein condensation. She can't help but wonder how a low-level mission could involve a demon above the Foundation establishment stage. It's like expecting a house cat and finding a lion instead. She informs Qingyang that they need to visit the owner of Flower Waterhouse for a chat. She mentions she'll report the actual situation to the Grand Pavilion and requests an extension on the mission deadline, quipping that it's time to fill out some paperwork. Qingyang gets excited and questions eagerly, wondering if this is really happening. Ning Yiwan, not in the mood for dawdling, tells him to hurry up and follow her, noting that excitement won't get them there any faster. Meanwhile, Liandra lies on a bed, surrounded by concerned caretakers. Qingyang and Ning Yiwan approach her, with Ning Yiwan asking if she saw what the criminal looked like. Liandra describes the figure as having no face, just a black void, adding with a shiver that it must have been a demon. Ning Yiwan inquires if the attack happened while Liandra was engaged in some naughty activity. Liandra confirms with a sheepish nod. It seems like the demon had interrupted more than just for peace and quiet. Ning Yiwan comments that during such intimate moments, a man's kidney and yang energy are at their peak, making it an ideal time for demons or devil cultivators to harvest energy for their own cultivation. Qingyang agrees with her deduction. It seems like demons have quite the knack for picking the most inconvenient times, almost like they have a bad sense of timing. The madam, through tears, admits she thought Liandra would be safe after switching rooms, so she allowed her to take a client. She laments that her greed blinded her, leading to this disaster, and now, with another death, Flower Waterhouse cannot operate in Zueo County anymore. Ning Yiwan, always practical, asks if there are any other establishments like Flower Waterhouse within 100 miles where men can engage in such activities. It's as if she's planning a not-so-glamorous tour of the county's shadier spots. The madam replies that there are no other such establishments in the area. Ning Yiwan considers this fact to be in their favor, noting that it means the perpetrator will likely return but will probably lie low for a few days. She adds that she and her junior will stay for a month, during which she will disguise herself as a courtesan and her junior will pose as her client. It seems like they are preparing for an undercover mission that could easily double as an unusual stage play. Qingyang, utterly shocked, exclaims in disbelief. Ning Yiwan, maintaining her composure, asks if he has any problems or objections. Qingyang quickly denies it, saying he will do as she instructs, but he can't help but feel a bit like he's just been signed up for the most unusual acting gig. Ning Yiwan then turns to the madam, requesting a pseudonym for her new role as a courtesan to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. The madam protests, saying she cannot let the master stoop to the level of a courtesan, as it would shorten her lifespan. Ning Yiwan waves off her concerns, explaining that she is merely fulfilling her duty to exorcise demons and advises the madam not to overthink it. Turning to Qingyang, she informs him that from today he will live with her. Qingyang, utterly shocked and with a confused expression, points to himself and asks, incredulously, if she means him. He looks as though he's just been cast in the lead role of a play he didn't audition for. As they leave the room, Qingyang follows Ning Yiwan, nervously asking if he wouldn't be in danger of losing a kidney in this plan. While walking, he reflects on the absurdity of his current situation, considering that he could transform into his dog form at night, which is not exactly the safest option. He muses that if he doesn't manage to catch the criminal, he'll be the first to go. The next day, while sitting by a pond, Qingyang reflects on his progress. He has finished reading the 4th chapter of Universal Law's Basic Techniques and finds it not that difficult. Determined, he realizes he needs to level up his cultivation before facing the criminal again. Next time, he won't let the perpetrator escape. He comments on the audacity of anyone daring to steal kidneys right under his nose, as if he's a one-man anti-kidney theft patrol. He places the book by his side and reflects on its teachings. The text explains how to open the Kai Sea, gather Kai into a sea, and circulate spiritual power from within to the outside. It advises to listen in all directions and keep the mind undisturbed. Spiritual energy is described as thin as a thread and as light as a cicada's wing, making it hard to grasp. However, after a few days of practice, he feels confident that he can fully touch this energy. He smiles to himself, thinking that soon he'll be threading the needle with that spiritual energy, ready to face any challenge. Meanwhile, Ning Yiwan observes Qingyang from afar, watching him try to concentrate and gather his spiritual energy. She reflects that since the day he challenged her, he seems to have changed. She recalls his bold declaration that he would also cultivate in the sky realm, defeat her in the grand competition, and make her his wife. She ponders why he wanted to marry her as soon as he arrived at the mountain, especially considering they hadn't met 2 years ago. It's almost as if he's on a quest that's part martial arts and part romantic comedy. Later, Ning Yiwan joins Qingyang and begins cultivating at a short distance away from him. The entire day passes as they both continue their training. As the sun begins to set, Ning Yiwan reflects on the day. She recalls hearing from others that Qingyang often skips classes and isn't serious about his training at Liushu Peak. However, what she has witnessed today is quite different from the rumors. She can't help but think that maybe there's more to Qingyang than meets the eye, and perhaps those rumors need a little cultivation of their own. Meanwhile, while cultivating, Qingyang reflects on his progress. He feels that his body is like a sponge, soaking up spiritual energy at an incredible rate. If he continues training like this, he believes he'll break through to the transformation realm in less than a month. He marvels at his own physique, feeling like he's got the supercharged metabolism of a teenager who just discovered protein shakes. Qingyang laughs loudly, amused by the thought of his rapid progress scaring his classmates. He imagines their faces when they see his progress and chuckles, thinking they'll probably look like they've seen a ghost, a really fit, glowing ghost. In his mind, he taunts them playfully, telling them to watch out as he outdoes them all. Ning Yiwan watches him laughing with a confused expression and sighs at his idiocy. Later that night, Qingyang clenches his fists and taps them on the table, realizing with a sinking feeling that he might turn into a dog tonight. He reflects that this peculiar illness needs to be cured or else he might really die. It seems if he doesn't get this under control, he might just have to start carrying around dog biscuits. Just then, Ning Yiwan enters the room and Qingyang asks if she's back and what she did today. He offers her some tea first, trying to play the gracious host. Ning Yiwan replies that she observed him all day and then went to the city to investigate further after sunset. Qingyang, surprised, questions if she really watched him all day, reflecting that he didn't notice her at all. He chuckles, thinking he must have been so engrossed in his training that he missed having an audience. Maybe next time he should sell tickets. Ning Yiwan tells him that when she entered the inn yesterday, she sensed a faint demonic aura. However, today that demonic aura is gone. Qingyang reflects that she must have sensed his demonic aura yesterday and that after he put on the demon suppression chain, it was suppressed so she could no longer sense it. He wonders if she might already know his identity, feeling a bit like a cat trying to hide its stripes, or in this case, a demon trying to hide its aura. Just then, Ning Yiwan replies that it must have been the lingering aura from the demon, so she decided to go to the city and search for any remaining demonic traces to find some clues. Changing the topic, she mentions that it's late and suggests it's time for a bath and then bed. Qingyang, feeling a bit flustered, tells her that he's a man and they shouldn't share a room, as it would be awkward for her to bathe with him around. Ning Yiwan, with a raised eyebrow, reminds him that he once declared he would defeat her and make her his wife, so why is he so reserved now? He chuckles nervously and admits that he was just young and impulsive, talking nonsense. He suggests she shouldn't take it seriously. Ning Yiwan comments that it was just nonsense then. She then playfully asks what if she insists on him helping her bathe tonight. Qingyang turns as red as a tomato, unable to comprehend what she's saying. Before he can react, she starts taking off her robe and instructs him to fetch some hot water for her. Sometime later, with his face still flushed, he prepares a tub of hot water for her. She removes her clothes and steps into the tub. Sitting in a corner of the room, Qingyang mutters to himself, pleading not to turn into a dog. He thinks about how unpredictable Ning Yiwan is, and one wrong move and he could end up as a dinner tonight. While bathing, Ning Yiwan asks Qingyang what he has been learning in the outer sect. He replies that the outer sect doesn't really teach much. Ning Yiwan agrees, mentioning that she has heard the same. She then asks if he wants to learn more and proposes that she can teach him. Peeking from the other side, Qingyang hesitantly replies that the sect rules forbid private instruction of techniques. Ning Yiwan taunts him, asking if he's seen enough. Qingyang quickly apologizes, admitting he got a bit excited, and places his hands over his eyes, as if they were the world's worst blindfolds. She then clarifies that she isn't privately instructing him. It's merely to ensure he won't hold her back during the capture of the criminal in a few days. She asks if he understands. Qingyang assures her not to worry, mentioning that if anyone asks, he will just say he learned it from the scriptures in the Sutra Pavilion. Ning Yiwan agrees, mentioning that's the best cover story. Just then, Qingyang notices a tail starting to form and reflects that he knew it. He might transform tonight. Panicking slightly, he tries to hide the tail between his legs. He quickly tells Ning Yiwan that his stomach suddenly feels hungry and he needs to go out and get some noodles from a stall. He suggests she soak in the bath a little bit longer. Ning Yiwan reflects on how, despite being a cultivator for so many years, Qingyang still can't control his appetite. Meanwhile, Qingyang rushes outside, trying to run as fast as he can, but within a matter of seconds, his body transforms into the demon dog. He reflects on the need to investigate the original owner's identity and figure out how to control the transformation. Otherwise, if he gets caught by Ning Yiwan, his otherworldly journey will be over faster than he can say woof. He moves towards the forest and suddenly sniffs a strange fragrance. Curiosity piqued, he wonders where this delicious scent is coming from. Following the trail, he soon finds someone grilling fish. To his surprise, it's a girl with a straw hat and a cat, calmly grilling fish in the outskirts of the forest. The girl notices him and comments on the appearance of a little dog, asking if he's hungry. He wonders if she's actually offering him a meal. She confirms it, mentioning that it's quite late and telling him not to wander around, as his owner will be sad if he gets lost. He barks in response, reflecting that this girl is quite gentle. She hands him a grilled fish, telling him to eat up as it is already cooked. He starts eating it, but quickly notices the cat watching him with strange eyes, as if silently urging him to eat quickly and leave already. He approaches the cat and, in his barking language, teases her, saying she must be afraid he'll compete with her for affection because he's so cute. The cat, in her mewing language, retorts that she is a spirit beast and asks him what he is, insisting she couldn't possibly feel threatened. Their exchange of barks and meows escalates, each one trying to outdo the other. Before long, the playful banter turns into a full-blown scuffle. They roll around, hustling like two children fighting over the last piece of candy, each determined to come out on top. The owner of the cat tries to interfere, telling them to stop fighting. As she moves forward, her foot slips on a stone and she falls. Her frock gets caught in a bush and comes off, leaving her on the ground half nude. Qingyang, in his demon dog form, happens to be standing underneath, and he is shocked at the sight he is seeing. Just then, the cat approaches him and slaps him as hard as she can, as if telling him not to look. Qingyang, reeling from the slap, thinks to himself that this might keep getting more bizarre. He quickly turns away, trying to pretend he's very interested in the grass, while mentally adding avoid judgmental cats to his list of things to remember. Qingyang starts crying due to the intensity of the slap, his eyes watering as he tries to process the situation. The girl, now realizing her predicament, says she really needs to stop being so reckless. Qingyang, still embarrassed by the awkward angle, tries to look anywhere but at her. The girl quickly picks up her robe and puts it on, mentioning that it's quite cold at night. She adds that it's a good thing she brought her cloak when she went out. Qingyang starts having a nosebleed, much to his embarrassment. The girl notices and asks him what's wrong and why he has a nosebleed. Qingyang reflects that this must be what they call a rush of blood. After all, he's a vigorous young man, but he certainly can't tell her that. The girl comes close to him and, with her handkerchief, gently wipes his nose, commenting that the dry weather makes nosebleeds easy. She instructs him to drink more hot water when he gets back. In reality, he might need more than hot water to avoid this kind of a nosebleed in future. He reflects that he knows hot water cures all ailments. Just then, her cat approaches him with a furious face and, in her meow language, tells him not to think she doesn't know why he's having a nosebleed. She reminds him that this is her owner and he should not even think about it. He barks in response, challenging her and asking what she can do about it. The cat, eyes narrowed and fur puffed up, looks ready for round 2. Qingyang, still nursing his sore nose, braces himself, wondering if hot water can cure cat scratches too. The girl interrupts their silly animal talk, sighing as she wonders how things are at her home. She then dismisses the thought, saying to herself that she shouldn't care as her father and mother don't care about what she thinks, so why should she care about what they do? Meanwhile, the cat and the dog, temporarily putting aside their rivalry, go back to eating their grilled fish. Qingyang, still in his demon dog form, thinks that at least the night's culinary offerings are decent, even if everything else is a bit chaotic. The cat, casting a wary eye at him, seems to silently agree that a full stomach is a good truce for now. Qingyang, still munching on his grilled fish, asks the cat what is wrong with her owner. The cat explains that her master and madam are forcing her to marry a young master from the beast-taming clan. Qingyang inquires if she's running away from the marriage. The cat responds with a sigh, saying what else could she do, explaining that the intended groom is so big and burly he could crush a pig with his weight. The cat adds that her owner can't truly escape, as the master and madam can understand animal language and will find her soon. Just then, the girl notices someone approaching and asks who is there. She takes out her whip and adopts an attacking stance, wondering if her father and mother have found her so quickly. She ponders what she should do now. However, emerging from the bushes is Ning Yiwan. She asks the girl if she is from the beast-taming clan, commenting that it's no wonder the area is full of demon energy. Qingyang is startled to see Ning Yiwan there. She also notices him in his demon dog form and wonders if he is the same dog from that day. She reflects that it's no wonder this dog was missing for a few days. It seems he was wandering around the mountains. She decides to let Qingyang stay out in the cold tonight and take the dog home instead, thinking he needs some supervision. The girl points at Ning Yiwan and asks who she is. Ning Yiwan, with a touch of playful etiquette, hints that it's only polite to introduce oneself first before asking someone else's name. The girl introduces herself as Kim Lianson of the Qin Beast Taming Clan and mentions she's traveling with her spirit pets. She then asks Ning Yiwan to introduce herself. Ning Yiwan does so, telling her that she is from the Great Sky Realm, Liaoshi Peak. Suddenly, Liangson gets excited at Ning Yuan's introduction and jumps with enthusiasm, exclaiming if she is indeed Lord Yuhua. She can barely contain her excitement at the thought of meeting her in person. Observing this spectacle, Qingyang silently wonders if this girl is a fangirl of Ning Yiwan. Liangson eagerly tells her that she has admired her for a long time and shyly asks if she can get an autograph. Liangson then takes out a knife and suddenly takes off her robe, enthusiastically suggesting that Ning Yiwan carve the autograph on her back. Both Ning Yiwan and Qingyang are somewhat shocked at this unexpected and rather dramatic request, half expecting a hidden camera to pop out. Ning Yiwan, thinking quickly, puts Liangson's robe back on her and tells her to forget about the autograph. Instead, she promises to give her something personal. Liangson, eyes wide with excitement, agrees that this works too. Ning Yiwan then hands her a comb, mentioning that if she doesn't mind, she can take it. Liangson excitedly takes the comb and starts dancing and singing with joy, looking like she just won the lottery. Qingyang, seeing this as his golden opportunity, decides it's the perfect moment to make a run for it. Just as he's about to sneak out, Ning Yiwan tells him not to go. Qingyang, puzzled, reflects that he has the demon's suppressing chain, and she shouldn't be able to sense his demonic aura. He wonders if she has some kind of sixth sense or if he's just really bad at sneaking out. Maybe a career in espionage isn't in his future after all. However, as Qingyang contemplates all this, Ning Yiwan walks up to him and touches the chain around his neck. She casually mentions that the last time she saw him, he didn't have a collar and asks if he has an owner now. Qingyang just looks at her, utterly confused. After all, what else can a bewildered puppy do? Ning Yiwan then deduces that he's so cute, many girls must shower him with gifts, and this collar must be one of them. Ning Yiwan shifts her attention to Liangson, mentioning that she senses demonic energy nearby, which is why she's out patrolling, and since the energy emanates from her spirit beasts, there's no need to worry. After all, even spirit beasts need to stretch their legs. She then mentions that she knows this dog, so she will take it with her. Liangson inquires if Ning Yiwan is leaving already. Ning Yiwan explains she's staying nearby at the Flower Water House, but just before she could complete her sentence, Liangson declares she's coming along too, as if she's worried she'll miss out on all the fun. Later, after settling Liangson, Ning Yiwan returns to the room with Qingyang in his demon dog form. Qingyang reflects on his fate, realizing he's about to be petted again. Perhaps his destiny is furrier than he imagined. She places him on the table, declaring that with him here, she won't let Qingyang disturb them tonight. She adds that she doubts the demon thief will show up, so Qingyang should be safe until morning. Qingyang silently wonders if he's truly ranked lower than a dog in this bizarre hierarchy. Ning Yiwan then starts rubbing her cheeks with Qingyang's fur, remarking on how soft and nice-smelling he is, thankfully lacking that typical stinky dog aroma. Qingyang can't help but reflect that this behavior borders on the perverted. She then scoots him up into her arms, declaring that she'll carry him to bed, as if he's a fluffy teddy bear and not a demon dog, contemplating the absurdity of his situation. Then, with a little bit of magic, she locks the door and windows, mentioning that Qingyang will know what to do when he returns. Noticing this, Qingyang panics, his mind racing with the thought of turning back into a human by morning and the awkward predicament that would create. After all, being a demon dog is one thing, but waking up as a naked man in a locked room might be a bit harder to explain. He imagines the situation, waking up nude in human form, awkwardly saying good morning to Ning Yiwan. Realizing the absurdity of it all, he starts crying, reflecting that he really doesn't want to die. Meanwhile, Ning Yiwan changes into her nightie, then places him beside her in bed, starting to cuddle him like a stuffed animal. Taking advantage of the situation, Qingyang touches her melons, marveling at how soft she feels. He starts sniffing and licking her, captivated by her pleasant scent, almost as if he's discovered the world's best perfume. Suddenly, he realizes what he's doing and is shocked by his own behavior, thinking he has really gone to the dogs this time. Ning Yiwan, surprised by his actions, comments that she thought he was just an abandoned little dog but now sees he's like other dogs, always eager to lick people. With his Davi cheeks turning red, Qingyang reflects that he was attracted by her spiritual aura and acted impulsively. Thankfully, he's a dog. If he were human, he'd probably be dead by now. He realizes that if Ning Yiwan ever finds out he's actually a man masquerading as a dog, he can't even begin to imagine what would happen. Probably something involving a lot less cuddling and a lot more kicking. Looking at her ripe melons, Qingyang further reflects what bad intentions could a little dog have. She has a jade spiritual physique after all. Not just demons and devils, but even ordinary cultivators would find it hard to resist such closeness. Clearly, it's her fault for forcing him into this situation. He's the victim here. Deciding not to think too deeply about it, he then cuddles her melons, trying to convince himself he's just a helpless dog in a very peculiar scenario. Ning Yiwan says that she needs to give him a name, wondering what to call him since usually only spirit pets get named. She calls him Woof Woof and asks if he wants to be her spirit pet. Qingyang barks in response while internally reflecting that this might complicate things. If he agrees to be her spirit pet, how will he escape the mountain later? But seeing how much she likes him as a dog, he realizes that refusing might disappoint her. Torn between the desire to maintain his cover and the need to plan his escape, he barks again, or what else can he do? Hoping she doesn't notice his doggy dilemma. Seeing him lost in thought, Ning Yiwan gently says she understands he's still very young and doesn't want to leave his parents too soon. It's okay, he can agree when grows up. She explains that becoming a spirit pet means following the master for life and never seeing his parents again. She reflects that by the way this dog is reacting, it seems he doesn't have a master. Qingyang responds with a woof because really, what else can he say? He's just a demon dog in a very odd predicament, hoping his barks can keep up with this charade. He reflects on how Ning Yiwan treats animals and people completely differently. With animals, she's warm and affectionate, while with people, she remains cold and distant. Ning Yiwan then tells him to sleep, mentioning that tomorrow she needs to teach Qingyang some techniques and hopes he learns quickly. Qingyang woofs again, pondering that her gaze is always guarded when looking at people. Maybe he's just overthinking, or maybe he's become too comfortable in his fur. Either way, he settles in, hoping tomorrow brings fewer complications and more belly rubs. Just then, he realizes how bad the situation is. He's been distracted by her gentle demeanor and now the door is locked and he's being held. If he turns back into a naked man on her bed in the morning, he's doomed. He starts crying, knowing he can't break Ning Yiwan's techniques yet and can't get out of the room. He starts praying to any god that will listen, wondering what kind of hellish joke this is. Wasn't he supposed to die by the sword in half a year? For half a year, it seems his journey in this other world might end tomorrow morning. It's midnight, and Qingyang's doggy eyes are heavy with sleep. He carefully watches Ning Yiwan, wondering if she's already asleep. Hearing her gentle snores, he cautiously jumps onto the floor. Reflecting on his limited options, he realizes there's only one thing left to do: trash this place. If he's going down, he might as well go down in a blaze of chaotic glory. Qingyang starts digging into the floor, reflecting that in just another hour, he should be able to dig his way out. Just then, Ning Yiwan wakes up and approaches him from behind, asking what he's doing. He looks at her with a confused yet cute face, wondering how she woke up despite his efforts to be quiet. He realizes he can't explain this now, thinking he's really dug himself into a hole this time, both literally and figuratively. Ning Yiwan says she gets it and asks if he needs to relieve himself. She offers to let him out. Qingyang agrees, nodding enthusiastically, realizing it was this simple all along. With just a wave of her hand, she undoes the magic on the door and it opens. She then tells him to go. Qingyang rushes outside while Ning Yiwan reflects that it seems he has been holding it for a long time. Poor dog. Just as she turns back to her bed, she senses a demonic energy. Without wasting another moment, she dashes outside and leaps onto the roof, ready to track down the source. Meanwhile, Qingyang sits by a tree, relieved to finally be out. He realizes that if he transforms now, he'll be facing an outdoor exposure situation, being stark naked. However, it's still better than being found dead in the morning. He then plans to head to the demon market to get a change of clothes from the 3 demon fox sisters, hoping they won't tease him too much about his current predicament. Without wasting any more time, he rushes to the spot where he entered the demon market before. However, he starts wondering about the entrance as he can't find it anywhere. He recalls the response from the demon fox lady when he had asked about the entrance. Her vague and cryptic answer now seems like a riddle he needs to solve quickly, or else he might end up spending the rest of the night as a very confused and very naked human in the middle of nowhere. She told him that asking such a question was odd because they were all demons and could naturally sense the demon market's presence. His visit this time feels off, like he's forgotten many things, including the fact that the entrance to the demon market appears randomly. In the present, Qingyang reflects that Miss Ding did mention something about the entrance. He recalls her words, mentioning that although the demon race and human race have superficially reconciled, many human cultivators still hate demons. Naturally, the entrance cannot be fixed in one place, but it's usually not far from where it last appeared. Qingyang sighs, realizing he has to search nearby. He can't help but think that, of all the magical conveniences, a randomly appearing entrance is about as helpful as a teleporting restroom. He starts searching here and there, feeling like a lost puppy in a maze. Suddenly, he notices Miss Ding flying above him and entering a hidden barrier. Seeing her vanish into the barrier, he reflects that he has finally found it. Just as he is about to enter, he senses Ning Yiwan's aura getting closer. He wonders why she is approaching and then spots Ning Yiwan reaching the area. Realizing it is really her, he quickly enters the barrier, not wanting to get spotted. Ning Yiwan reaches the spot and observes the surroundings, commenting that the demonic energy has suddenly disappeared. She reflects that there must be an entrance to the demon market around here. She remarks that the demon got lucky this time, but one day she will uncover the secrets of their demon market. Inside the demon market, Qingyang transforms back into his human form, but he is completely naked. The demon ladies start commenting on his state, with one of them asking him what he's up to today. Others just laugh, saying he's really interesting, as if he planned this grand entrance. Qingyang tries to maintain his dignity. Embarrassed, Qingyang tells the demon ladies that he has something to do, trying to keep a straight face. He reflects on his narrow escape, thankful he made it to the demon territory before transforming, or else he would have certainly lost his life at the hands of Ning Yiwan. He tells the demon ladies that he'll talk to them later and then rushes to the demon fox sister's shop. Bursting into the shop, he shouts for Miss Ding, urgently asking for help, hoping she has a spare set of clothes and maybe a bit of mercy for his current predicament. Standing there naked, Qingyang again asks Miss Ding for help. The three little demon fox sisters, initially frightened, hide behind the counter. Recognizing him, they come out and one of them comments on his presence, asking what happened. Qingyang, trying to cover himself as best as he can, explains that he suddenly transformed back into human form and had no clothes to change into. He wonders why they seemed a bit tense just now. However, one of the sisters simply waves her two fingers, and in the next instant, Qingyang is fully covered in new clothes. He finds it impressive, thinking that magical wardrobe changes should be a standard feature in his life. One of the girls tells Qingyang that he should go to the 100 Goods Hall in the demon market and get his spatial stone. Qingyang, puzzled, asks what that is. The girl explains that it's a magical item for storing things in an alternate space, as humans call it. She adds that even low-grade spatial stones can hold the contents of an entire room. The girl mentions that among humans, even a low-tier spatial stone costs 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. However, in their demon market, he only needs to bring something human-made slightly better in quality, and he can exchange it for one. She adds that with a spatial stone, he can store as many sets of clothes as he needs while traveling. Qingyang thinks this sounds like the perfect solution to avoid future wardrobe malfunctions and decides it's high time to upgrade his magical toolkit. Qingyang tells the girl that he will bring enough items next time and asks around for the spatial stone. He then inquires about their elder sister, wondering if she's off handling some top-secret demon business. The girl replies that she had some matters to attend to and is not available. Qingyang asks her to please send his regards and mentions that he will come back to play with all four of them another day, making a mental note to avoid any more surprise transformations, and since he has other things to attend to, he will take his leave. He waves his hand and leaves the store, while the girl wishes him to take care of him. As he heads back, Qingyang reflects on how Ning Yiwan was likely chasing a certain demon who entered the demon market right next to him. He wonders if that demon wasn't Miss Ding. He considers whether Ning Yiwan has left by now, hoping she's not still out there with her demon detector on high alert. However, he realizes that if he exits from here, the entrance won't be in the same place as before, so he shouldn't run into her. Later, he arrives back at the Flower Water House and starts knocking on Ning Yuan's door, asking if she's awake. He reflects that he needs to make his story convincing, preferably without mentioning his impromptu adventure. Ning Yiwan opens the door, looking curious. As he enters, she asks him if Maddie went out for having noodles and how did he and having change of clothes. Qingyang explains that he ran into some thugs harassing a shop owner and decided to step in. When the thugs got mad, they took their frustration out by smashing a bowl at him. The grateful shopkeeper and twist of fate gave him these clothes as a thank you gift. Qingyang promises to return them the next day, noting that they're not exactly his style. Ning Yiwan praises his sense of justice, saying it's truly commendable. She then mentions that he doesn't have to sleep in this room tonight. Qingyang raises an eyebrow, wondering if he's being subtly shown the door or if there's a cozy spot in a less adventurous corner of the house. Even though Qingyang feels a sense of relief, he can't help but ask if this setback might mess up her plan to catch the demon. Ning Yiwan, not missing a beat, explains that earlier a demon had been snooping around near the flower water house. She managed to injure it, but it vanished into the chaos, probably thinking it was auditioning for a disappearing act. She pursued it through numerous alleys, but the demon got a bit lucky and managed to slip into the demon market. It seems the demon had a knack for hiding in the busiest places, as if it was trying to win a prize for the best hide-and-seek player in the underworld. Qingyang is taken aback, clearly surprised. He wonders aloud if the demon scouting around the flower water house might be the same one that has been stealing people's kidneys. It's as if the demon has a rather unusual hobby that involves organ collection, and now it's showing up at all the wrong places. Qingyang reflects on the timing, noting that he had already injured it before and questions why it seems so eager now. Ning Yiwan explains that demons have a different way of thinking compared to humans. It's possible that having been hurt by him, the demon decided to take a risk and come to the area to steal another kidney to heal itself, because apparently demons believe in self-care through organ shopping. She then reminds him that it's quite late and suggests he should go to bed and rest. After all, even prodigious cultivators need their beauty sleep to be ready for the next round of unexpected demon drama. Qingyang bids her good night and heads to his room. As he makes his way there, he can't shake off his thoughts about why the demon is so fixated on the flower water house. It seems strange that the demon would risk its own life to come here. It's almost as if the demon had a particular fondness for the place. Maybe it had a secret stash of enchanted kidney pies or something equally bizarre. Logically, it doesn't quite add up. And there's one more aspect of the situation that remains puzzling to him. Perhaps the demon is a connoisseur of fine locations, or there's an even stranger reason behind its peculiar behavior. He starts to reflect on why Ning Yiwan is so gentle with the dog but looks at him with disdain. He wonders if, in her eyes, he's just as unworthy as the dog, maybe even less charming. He sighs, thinking that if she treated him with even a fraction of the kindness she shows the dog, perhaps his situation wouldn't be so dire. Yet he muses, Ning Yiwan doesn't seem to respond to flattery, no matter how much he might try to win her over with compliments about her impeccable taste in canines. With a resigned shake of his head, he decides to let it go and focus on getting some rest, reminding himself that he still has training to tackle the next day. After all, there's no time for self-pity when there are demons to dodge and skills to master. The next morning, just as Qingyang and Ning Yiwan are about to head out for their training, Liangson rushes up to them, asking them to wait as she wants to join their session. Ning Yiwan explains that the Beast Tamer clan and the Grand Sky Realm have different training methods and skills, much like how cats and dogs have different ways of plotting world domination. Liangson, startled by this revelation, apologizes profusely, admitting she hadn't thought it through. She was just too excited about meeting Lord Yua. She decides not to join the training but offers to wait for their return so they can share a meal together. Ning Yiwan thanks her for understanding. Later, Qingyang and Ning Yiwan arrive at the edge of a serene pond. Ning Yiwan, with a curious glance, asks Qingyang about his current cultivation level. Qingyang, looking a bit sheepish, admits that it's rather embarrassing. He confesses that he only recently reached the peak of the key refining stage, and that his previous neglect of training hasn't exactly made him a shining example of cultivation prowess. He thinks to himself that since Starfire and key refining have similar external energy, claiming to be at the peak of key refining should keep Ning Yiwan from raising any eyebrows. Ning Yiwan reassures him that it doesn't matter much as today's lesson is suitable for anyone who has entered the first realm of key refining. She then gives Qingyang a challenge, if he can step on the water and reach the other side. She recalls that this was a lesson they had in their main classes, with a touch of nostalgia for the simpler training days. Qingyang, slightly embarrassed, admits that he can't perform the feat. He explains that he hadn't attended the main classes properly before, leaving him a bit out of practice. Qingyang wonders if Ning Yiwan is about to teach him the lightness skill. Ning Yiwan, reading his thoughts, confirms that she indeed will and instructs him to pay close attention. She explains that today's lesson will cover the first form of Cloud's steps, called Light Boat on the Lake. If Qingyang masters this technique, he'll have the opportunity to advance to wandering floating clouds. She emphasizes the importance of getting this foundational step right, almost like learning to walk before trying to run. Ning Yiwan begins by instructing Qingyang to gather his energy at the soles of his feet. She advises him to imagine his feet as two flat boats gliding over a calm lake, with the energy acting as the water flowing underneath them. To illustrate, she extends her leg and demonstrates how to control this flow, creating a stable cushion of energy beneath his feet. Next, she tells him to push the energy out from his body, likening it to a leaf on water rising and falling with the waves. His body should move in harmony with this energy, just like the leaf gracefully following the undulating waves. It's a bit like learning to dance with the water, just without the soggy feet. Qingyang is astonished by Ning Yiwan's teaching methods and reflects that the original owner's body seems to have a much quicker grasp of cultivation. He thinks that with such a concise explanation, he should be able to understand the essence immediately. He closes his eyes and extends his legs, focusing intently. Ning Yiwan reminds him that everything must be relaxed and natural, much like a leisurely stroll. She then steps onto the water, demonstrating how water, despite being the softest element, can still penetrate stone. She explains that his body needs to flow like water itself. By doing so, he will be able to float effortlessly. It's a bit like trying to be as smooth and fluid as a water ballet without getting your feet wet. On his very first attempt, Qingyang manages to step onto the water. Thrilled, he exclaims that her teaching is excellent. Ning Yiwan, taken aback, marvels at his quick mastery of the technique. She struggles to process this rapid progress and starts wondering if he's been secretly practicing water walking with the help of invisible penguins. She's baffled by how he could master it so quickly and questions whether he might have known the skill all along. She wonders aloud why he had lied about his experience. Sensing her suspicion, Qingyang reassures her, explaining that he genuinely did not know the technique before. He admits he was surprised to get it right on his first try, simply following her instructions. After all, it's not every day one gets to walk on water with such ease. Sometimes even the water seems to be on his side. Panicked, Qingyang curses himself inwardly. He reflects that the original owner's body seems to grasp and learn techniques instantly, which makes it all the more puzzling that it appeared so incompetent for the past 2 years. It's almost as if the body had a hidden talent for mastering skills but preferred to take a nap instead. He realizes that the setup from the planners was never utilized, leaving him to wonder if the original owner's skills were simply on vacation. Meanwhile, Ning Yiwan is deep in thought, astonished by how Qingyang has mastered light boat on the lake in an instant, something that took her 7 days to learn. She muses that calling him a genius might not even begin to cover it. It's as if he's been sneaking lessons from a water-walking wizard in his spare time. Qingyang curses himself even more, fearing that Ning Yiwan is probably thinking the same thing. He confesses that his success might have been a fluke, and that he'll need much more practice to become proficient. Meanwhile, Ning Yiwan advises him to keep practicing, mentioning that, in the meantime, she'll just return to the inn. She reflects on the remarkable talent Qingyang has shown and realizes that such a cultivation prodigy must be reported to the master immediately. She considers that he should be transferred to Lishi Peak as an inner disciple, a position more fitting for his apparent skill. After all, someone who can master techniques faster than a speeding water boat surely deserves a prime spot on the cultivation leaderboard. Ning Yiwan then stands on her sword and takes off with impressive speed, soaring through the air like a rocket. Qingyang calls out a hasty goodbye, only to get drenched by the splashes of water from her rapid departure. He realizes that his previous estimate was off. At this rate, he could break through to the transformation realm within 5 days. He starts wondering if there are any artifacts that can conceal one's energy, as a bit of discretion might be useful. Deciding that it's better to be safe than sorry, he resolves to find an opportunity to visit the demon market again that night. After all, in a world full of surprises, a little extra caution never hurt anyone. Meanwhile, back at the Flower Water House, Ning Yiwan is kneeling on the floor, fiddling with a magic item that seems like it was pulled straight out of a wizard's thrift store. Just as she activates the item, her master's voice crackles through it, sounding both mystical and mildly irritated, as though it had just been pulled from a peaceful slumber. The master wants to know what Ning Yiwan needs. With a confidence that suggests she solved a tricky puzzle, Ning Yiwan explains that since her master and the peak master of Lishi Peak are both fellow disciples, requesting the transfer of an outer disciple should be a breeze, like a stroll through a well-kept garden. Her master, eager to get this sorted without fuss, confirms that arranging the transfer is indeed no trouble. They then ask who Ning Yiwan has in mind for this task, as if selecting a candidate for a rather exclusive club. Ning Yiwan mentions that the outer disciple she has in mind is Qingyang from Lishi Peak. Her master, after a brief pause to ponder, recalls having read about Qingyang in the records of strange events, and it was quite an interesting read, almost like a bestseller in the world of mystical chronicles. Embarrassed, Ning Yiwan suggests to her master that he should read fewer trivial things, implying it's not really beneficial for him. Her master, chuckling at her concern, assures her that the reading is indeed enjoyable and even recommends she give it a try. Then, with a playful nudge, he comments on how taciturn Ning Yiwan always seems and wonders aloud when she might find a Tao companion. Ning Yiwan retorts, noting that her master's situation isn't much better, given that his own Tao companion left him. It's like trading witty banter about being single, while casually pointing out that no one's love life is exactly perfect. Her master agrees, acknowledging the point about the Tao companion, and informs Ning Yiwan that he needs to discuss some matters with the sect leader. With that, he decides to wrap up the conversation and disconnects. Ning Yiwan responds with a resigned sigh, as if the conversation had taken a turn into the realm of unfulfilled expectations and unresolved mysteries. Half a month passes in the blink of an eye, and nothing notable occurs at Flower Waterhouse. The business resumes its usual rhythm as customers return. Madam greets each one with a smile, attributing the return to normalcy to the influence of the three immortal masters. It's almost as if her gratitude is a magical charm that keeps everything running smoothly. Meanwhile, standing on the balcony of Flower Waterhouse, Ning Yiwan informs Qingyang that the demon criminal was seriously injured by her last time. After a month of recuperation, it should be nearly recovered. She reminds him that tonight marks the anniversary of the demon's previous crime, so they must remain vigilant. It's like setting an alarm for a crucial event and making sure not to hit the snooze button. Qingyang asks Ning Yiwan why the demon is so fixated on Flower Waterhouse. He points out that as a member of the demon clan, it has the freedom to go anywhere. He mentions that just 10 miles away in Zueo County, there's a larger town with a brothel, so why would the demon repeatedly take the risk at their location? It's like questioning why a cat insists on knocking things over in one room when there's a perfectly good kitchen counter across the hall. Ning Yiwan responds that the demon must have some connection to Flower Waterhouse, and once they capture it, the truth will come out. At that moment, Liangson's cat comes racing from behind, mewing loudly. Liangson follows closely, explaining that her cat detected a trace of demon energy. She adds that the demon, being very cautious, was carrying an artifact to suppress its energy. The trace was extremely faint and vanished almost instantly, like a whisper in the wind. Ning Yiwan is intrigued by the mention of suppressing demonic energy. Qingyang reflects on the situation, knowing that it shouldn't be him. He points out that the demon chain on his wrist was too conspicuous, so he switched it to his neck. Even after all this time, no one has detected any demonic energy in him. Liangson notes that the demon must have blended into the crowd, making it difficult to pinpoint just a trace of demonic energy among so many people downstairs. They can't risk alarming the crowd and causing more chaos. Ning Yiwan reassures her, saying there's no need to worry. When the demon makes its move, its demonic energy will inevitably surge, and she will only need a moment to locate it and bring its story to a close. It's like waiting for a storm to reveal its location so she can be ready to weather it. Sometime later, Liander is telling a customer that he has had too much to drink and requests to be taken upstairs to rest. Qingyang, observing the scene, reflects that he hasn't seen Liander around for a few days. The madam said that Liander was recovering outside the city and has just returned to work after getting better. It's as if Liander's sudden reappearance is a clue in a mystery novel, and Qingyang is piecing together the chapters. Qingyang sighs, lamenting that spring breezes are indifferent to illness, and that the arrival of guests at the Red Tower turns laughter into tears. He reflects on life as being like duckweed, bitter and easily drifting, and how even a sickly smile can be hard to maintain. Ning Yiwan, who has been listening to his philosophical musings, suddenly interrupts with a playful remark, asking if he's also into writing poetry. Embarrassed, Qingyang admits that he was just making it up on the spot, like a spontaneous poet who forgot their lines. Meanwhile, the client wraps Liander in a warm hug, expressing how much he missed her. He gratefully notes that the issue at Flower Waterhouse has been resolved. Otherwise, he would have worried himself sick thinking about her. The client asks Liander to sing him a song later, specifically his favorite, 18 Touches. Liander playfully remarks on his naughtiness, to which the client responds that if he's naughty, then she is like his naughtiness. They both share a laugh, enjoying the lighthearted moment. Qingyang observes the interaction with keen attention, his face reflecting a sense that something unusual might be afoot. Ning Yiwan, noticing his reaction, raises an eyebrow. Qingyang wonders why Liander's energy feels different from before and why he has a sense of familiarity with it. He ponders that perhaps he's just been here too long and is overthinking things. He then turns to Ning Yiwan and speculates that if the demon knows they are stationed here, but still dares to approach, it might not use traditional demon techniques. Instead, it could simply knock someone out and use a knife to target a vital organ, like the kidneys. It's as if he's considering a more mundane yet brutal approach, one that's just as dangerous but less flashy. Ning Yiwan asks Qingyang what he means by cutting out the kidney, the old-fashioned way. Qingyang explains that he's referring to using just a knife without any magic. In this scenario, there would be no demonic energy to detect, making it much harder to spot the threat. Ning Yiwan reflects on the situation, realizing that if the demon is indeed using such a method, searching room by room with so many people around might be too late. The demon's choice to strike during a crowded time makes it even more challenging to detect and prevent its attack. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack that's constantly shifting. Qingyang comments that the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest. He muses that killing and taking a kidney right under their noses would be even more thrilling for the demon. He reflects on the familiar feeling he sensed earlier, now understanding what it might be, but hopes he's just overthinking things. It's as if he's grappling with a nagging intuition that the situation might be more complex than it appears. Qingyang tells Ning Yiwan that he has an inexplicable urge to do something. When Ning Yiwan asks what it is, he doesn't respond but suddenly rushes off. With a swift movement, he kicks open the door to the room where Liander went with her client. Ning Yiwan is left shocked, watching as Qingyang bursts in, driven by an urgent impulse. Just as Qingyang bursts into the room, he is met with a shocking scene. The client is lying on the floor, bleeding and unconscious, while Liander stands beside him, holding a knife. In a state of shock, Liander tries to say something, but before she can utter a word, Ning Yiwan swiftly throws a stone in her hand. The stone hits its mark, causing Liander to drop the knife she was holding. Ning Yiwan, realizing the situation, declares that Liander is a demon. Liander, addressing Qingyang as Master Qingyang, doesn't say another word and bolts, fleeing for her life. Ning Yiwan shouts after her, telling her not to run, and begins to chase her outside. Meanwhile, Qingyang, focused on the immediate crisis, approaches the bleeding client on the floor. He offers the client a green pill, which has the power to even reincarnate the dead. He tells the client that while he doesn't care whether the client lives or dies, he doesn't want Miss Ding to take another life. Qingyang instructs him to consider himself lucky. Liander, clearly exhausted from running, slows down. Ning Yiwan, still in hot pursuit, shouts at her, questioning where she thinks she's going. Lianson, having followed the chase, arrives at the scene. Ning Yiwan quickly instructs Lianson to cut off Liander's escape route, while she herself will block her path ahead. Lianson nods in agreement, ready to execute the plan. Liander glances back to see Ning Yiwan and Lianson closing in on her. Ning Yiwan, using her magic skills, performs a dramatic leap, curdling her body midair. In the blink of an eye, she lands right in front of Liander, blocking her path. With a resolute tone, she addresses Liander as a demon and questions if she thinks she can escape again, making it clear that there's no way out. Ning Yiwan firmly tells Liander that she has nowhere to run. Lianson, echoing the sentiment, shouts at Liander, calling her an evil creature. Meanwhile, Lianson's cat, agitated and struggling, breaks free from her grasp and lunges at Liander. In a dramatic transformation, the cat morphs into a massive, monstrous tiger with a fierce roar and deadly intent in its eyes. Liander's face pales in fear as she faces the terrifying tiger. Lianson, seemingly delighted by the transformation, dances with joy and admires her now tiger companion, exclaiming about how handsome it looks. Just then, Qingyang arrives, panting from the exertion. He urgently tells Ning Yiwan to hold on and insists that they first need to uncover why Liander is taking human kidneys. He reflects on the situation, realizing that if he reveals her as Miss Ding now, it will complicate his explanations to Ning Yiwan. Ning Yiwan, acknowledging Qingyang's requests, turns her attention back to the demon. She demands to know why the demon specifically targets Flower Water House for human kidneys, and where the real Liander is. Liander hesitates, clearly torn between fear and defiance. Ning Yiwan, with her sword firmly clenched, declares that it doesn't matter if Liander stays silent. The fact that this demon has claimed dozens of lives is enough for her to take action on behalf of justice. It's like Ning Yiwan is channeling her inner knight, ready to slay dragons and demons alike. Liander, however, laughs derisively. She mocks Ning Yiwan's lofty talk of justice, questioning if, just because she's human, she believes that the heavenly Tao is on her side and that it's perfectly fine for other races to be wiped out. It's as if Liander is playing devil's advocate, turning the whole justice debate into a cosmic joke. Liander continues, arguing that there are plenty of human cultivators who kill demons without cause. She challenges Ning Yiwan, asking what kind of justice allows such cruelty. Ning Yiwan counters that Liander's actions were inexcusable because she killed people. Liander responds coldly, stating that those men deserve to die. It's as if she's arguing that her actions are just a grim form of cosmic justice, as though she's the protagonist in a dark, twisted tale. Qingyang then steps in, telling Ning Yiwan to hold back. He insists that handling this demon is his responsibility and that she should let him take it from here. Ning Yiwan, raising an eyebrow, questions if Qingyang can manage, given that the demon's realm is above his. Qingyang replies with a confident yes, as if he's ready to channel his inner hero. Ning Yiwan, not one to back down easily, tells him she'll be watching closely, perhaps with popcorn in hand. Qingyang then asks Liander if she can explain why she's been killing people. Inside Liander's body, Miss Ding reflects on the situation. She realizes that Qingyang is now a junior brother to Ning Yiwan, so he likely prefers to keep his identity hidden. She acknowledges that the He family has been benefactors to their Fox clan, so she cannot afford to put Qingyang at a disadvantage. Miss Ding, now revealing her true form, addresses Qingyang. She explains that 2 years ago, she saved a scholar in Zueo County from a group of bandits. In addition to rescuing him, she provided him with silver and gold treasures. The scholar promised her that he would never betray her kindness and mentioned he was heading to the capital for the imperial exam. Miss Ding continues, revealing that she admired the scholar's ambition and decided to help him. However, a friend later informed her that the scholar hadn't studied at all. Instead, he had squandered all the money she gave him on indulgent activities in brothels. Determined to uncover the truth, she went to Flower Water House and saw him with Leander. When the scholar realized he was exposed, he falsely reported her to the Flying Dragon Division, accusing her of being a demon trying to kill him. Miss Ding's voice breaks as she recounts the aftermath. The Flying Dragon Division, following the scholar's false accusations, tracked down her clan. They tortured and killed many of her kin. Thankfully, with the help of a powerful ally, she and her 3 sisters managed to escape, but the rest of her clan was brutally massacred. Tears stream down her face as she recalls the horror. She sobs, saying her clan members were so innocent, and in return, she wanted to make those responsible suffer. Her desire was to see them die in disgrace, stripped of any dignity. It's like she's channeling a tragic hero's rage, vowing to avenge her fallen kin by ensuring her enemies meet a dishonorable end. Miss Ding, her face wet with tears, tells Qingyang that she has said all she needs to. She acknowledges that escape is impossible, and if he wishes to kill her, he should do it quickly. Qingyang turns to Ning Yiwan, seeking her opinion. With a stoic expression, Ning Yiwan steps on her sword, indicating that it's Qingyang's task to handle. She tells him to proceed as he sees fit and then departs without another word. Liangxin, seeing the situation is under control, mounts her transformed tiger and follows Ning Yiwan, leaving the scene. It's as if everyone is stepping out of a dramatic play, each character leaving the stage in their own way. Just as they leave, Qingyang turns back and thanks Miss Ding for keeping his identity concealed. Miss Ding, touched by his words, also expresses her gratitude. She moves closer to him, resting her head on his chest, and reveals that the man who saved her and her sisters was from his family. Qingyang reflects on this revelation, realizing that it explains why she referred to the He family as their benefactors. Miss Ding then tells Qingyang that her fate is now in his hands. Qingyang, considering the situation, points out that if he lets her go, she will inevitably confront Ning Yiwan again. Given Ning Yuan's resolute stance, she will not show mercy. The only way to ensure her safety, Qingyang says, is to offer a solution. Curious, Miss Ding asks what he proposes. Qingyang's response is unexpected. He asks if she would become his spirit pet. Later at Flower Water House, the madam, visibly relieved, thanks the heavens that no one died in the incident. She then goes onto her knees and hugs Ning Yiwan tightly, expressing her gratitude. She exclaims that having the immortal masters present was a stroke of luck. Without their intervention, another such incident could have forced them to shut down and leave. Observing the floor with so much blood, Ning Yiwan reflects that that client lost so much blood and still is not dead. It's truly incredible. Just then, Qingyang arrives, looking as if he's just completed a marathon but without breaking a sweat. He informs Ning Yiwan that he's finished the task, probably with a flourish that suggests he's just saved the world. Turning to the madam, he reassures her that the demon is subdued and there won't be any more incidents. He's even gone the extra mile or two and sent a servant to fetch Lianger from downstairs, making sure she's unharmed. The madam, clearly overjoyed, rushes over and hugs Qingyang's leg like a child clutching their favorite stuffed toy. She thanks him repeatedly, as if her gratitude alone could solve world peace. She then informs them that she has prepared the reward money and will have someone fetch it right away. Ning Yiwan, raising an eyebrow with a mix of curiosity and amusement, asks Qingyang if he really just subdued the demon. Qingyang confirms with a nod, looking as if he's just casually finished his daily jog. Ning Yiwan remarks that Qingyang still has a soft heart. Qingyang, not missing a beat, explains that the demon's hands are indeed stained with blood, but that's because the scholar betrayed her first. He adds with a wry smile that men who frequent brothels are rarely the sort who win Best Citizen awards. Ning Yiwan replies, eye for an eye, if the scholar had betrayed her, she could have settled the score with him. Even if these men are truly evil, it's not up to her to judge them. She then asks him what he did with her. Qingyang replies that he took her as his spirit pet, and she will spend her life atoning for the sins she committed. Ning Yiwan, looking somewhat displeased, turns her back to Qingyang and says that since the mission is complete, they should head back to the Sky Realm to claim their points immediately. It's clear she's ready to trade their success for some tangible rewards, because who can blame her for being in it for the points? Qingyang, reflecting on the situation, considers a small victory that she didn't ask any more questions. At least now he can avoid an awkward discussion about the ethics of spirit pets. Later, as they prepare to say goodbye, they bid farewell to Liangxin. She tells them that her parents are already aware of her whereabouts and that she needs to return home first. With tears streaming down her face, she says her goodbyes. As Liangxin departs, Ning Yiwan turns to Qingyang and informs him that they should head out as well. She's already let the sect know about the mission's completion, so they need to return to the Sky Realm tonight. Her tone suggests it's not a suggestion but a firm directive, like a general commanding troops. Qingyang, nodding in agreement, reflects that Ning Yiwan seems colder toward him than before, possibly due to Miss Ding. He decides to brush it off. After all, once she completes 4 tasks, he plans to leave the Sky Realm. It's not like he was planning to stick around anyway, so her chilly demeanor might actually be a blessing in disguise. The next day at the storage pavilion, Zheng Qingyang approaches Qingyang with a curious glint in her eye. She asks if it's true that he returned with Lord Yuwa, having apparently heard the news faster than a courier pigeon on caffeine. Qingyang, raising an eyebrow, remarks with a touch of amusement that she certainly gets news quickly. Zheng Qingyang, not missing a beat, replies with a grin that, after all, she is the editing chief, making her the go-to person for all the juicy details. She then asks Qingyang to share some news, promising that she won't write anything bad. It's a deal that sounds more like an unspoken agreement to trade secrets for good press, but with Zheng Qingyang's charm, it's hard to refuse. Zheng Qingyang adds thoughtfully that, unlike others, she believes Qin and Lord Yuwa are not a good match. From her keen observations, Lord Yuwa seems disinterested, which means Qingyang might still have a chance. She says this with the confidence of someone who's had their share of romantic misadventures. Qingyang, mildly amused, reminds her that she's mentioned this before. Zheng Qingyang, feigning innocence, asks if she really did. Then, with a laugh, she explains that her eyes are sharp, like a hawk spotting a mouse from miles away. If there hadn't been anything between them, she would have noticed it long ago. It's almost as if she's claiming her observational skills are as reliable as a weather forecast. Qingyang informs Zheng Qingyang that Lord Yuhua has just completed a task and also helped him out along the way. He then reflects on his game experience, recalling how NPCs kept pestering Ning Yiwan, eventually pushing her towards Qin Shen. He wonders if Ning Yuan's emotional direction is being influenced by this persistent NPC meddling, nudging her toward Qin Shen. It's a frustrating thought for him, like discovering a plot twist he could have avoided. Qingyang finds it particularly annoying, reflecting that it's his own fault for skipping through the game plot. Now he's left with gaps in his memory about Ning Yiwan. It's almost as if he's caught in a never-ending rerun of a soap opera he can't remember the script for. As they continue forward, Zheng Qingyang reminds Qingyang that she's here to help. If he recalls anything important, he should remember to tell her. Qingyang agrees, and as she leaves, he sighs with a sense of relief, finally finding a bit of inner peace. Later, Qingyang enters his room, feeling utterly exhausted. He collapses onto the bed, eager to sink into comfort. However, his relaxation is short-lived when he notices something odd under his blanket. With a jolt of panic, he jumps up, wondering if there's a person hiding beneath. Liu Xin emerges from under the blanket, looking groggy but cheerful. She asks Qingyang if he's finally back. Qingyang, still in a state of shock, asks her why she's on his bed. Liu Xin explains that she's been waiting for him and accidentally fell asleep from exhaustion. Apparently, being a bed warmer is her side gig. She then inquires about his trip, her curiosity barely masking her embarrassment. Qingyang, regaining his composure, insists she quickly get out of his bed and leave his room. He warns her that if anyone sees them like this, it might lead to some very awkward misunderstandings. Qingyang reflects with a mix of frustration and disbelief that Liu Xin is incredibly persistent. She's tried seduction on him so many times and still hasn't given up. He wonders if she'll continue until she's drained his vital essence completely. It's a thought that's both unsettling and oddly comedic, like a dramatic chase scene where the hero just can't seem to escape. Liu Xin, reaching out and moving closer, suddenly wraps her arms around him. With a hurt expression, she asks why he's so harsh and where she went wrong. Her reaction is as if she's playing the role of a heartbroken character from a soap opera. Shoving him her melons, trying to seduce him, she tells him that for him she will change for good. Qingyang, his patience wearing thin, responds by slapping her. Liu Xin is sent flying onto the floor, her grand plans scattered like confetti. With a straight face, Qingyang tells her bluntly that he really doesn't want to waste time on her. He adds that he knows exactly what she's up to, and he's not interested. Liu Xin, flustered and confused, stutters, asking him what he means by knowing what she's up to. Qingyang turns back with a devilish grin, telling Liu Xin not to be afraid. He knows she likes him, but now isn't the right time for any of that. His expression suggests he's enjoying the power play, savoring the moment of intimidation. He reflects to himself, considering whether she fears he might expose her dealings with Qin Shen or reveal that he knows Qin Shen is working for the demon clan. In reality, he just wants to scare her, throwing her off balance and keeping her on edge. Liu Xin, while brushing herself off, mutters that he's so annoying. Inside, she's thinking he nearly scared her to death. She had worried that this brat knew everything, and his sinister grin had her second-guessing her every move. Qingyang, looking utterly exhausted, tells Liu Xin that he's really tired and needs to sleep. They could talk another time. His tone leaves no room for negotiation. Sleep is clearly his top priority. Liu Xin starts to respond, mentioning that she isn't properly dressed yet, but before she can finish her sentence, Qingyang kicks her butt with a swift motion and throws her out of his room. The action is as abrupt as it is final, making it clear that he's done with the conversation. Outside, other disciples witness the whole spectacle of Liu Xin being unceremoniously ejected from Qingyang's room. She's so mortified by the public display of embarrassment that she avoids making eye contact with anyone, her cheeks burning with shame. Inside his room, Qingyang reflects on how he has rejected Liu Xin's advances multiple times, yet she remains stubbornly persistent. It's as if she and Qin Shen are on a relentless quest to drain his vital essence, no matter the obstacles. With a serious expression, Qingyang mentally threatens Qin Shen, noting that he was the one who schemed against him first. He warns Qin Shen not to blame him for seizing all the opportunities that come his way. And that was it for today. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment part 2 down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.